What does it mean for hens to be free?
Only freeing them from their cages?
Or is it getting them to express their natural behavior?
All these questions will be answered in today's first iteration of Word From Hens, cage-free campaign webinar series for schools.
I'm Doc Lorraine.
I'm Doc Alvin.
And I am Doc Rina. Good morning. We are today's panel of moderators for this webinar. Are you excited, Doc Lorraine?
Well, of course, Doc Rina, you know, anything to do with animal welfare gets me excited.
You mentioned it already. I'm sure our participants are excited as you are for today's webinar.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today, our dear participants. This really means a lot for animal welfare, especially for hens.
And also, we appreciate our fellows from universities all over the Philippines who invited their students to attend this webinar today.
Yes, on that note, for today's webinar, our participants have the opportunity to ask anything about hen welfare to our STEAM resource speakers.
So to our participants, make sure to listen carefully to our speakers for the next 3 hours because there will be not only one, but 2 open forums to accommodate all your comments and questions.
So how nice is that, Doc Rina? So we're going to have the first open forum after the first set of 3 speakers and the second one after the last 3 speakers.
We will also have a panel of reactors who will share some of their learnings and insights relevant to their respective fields.
This webinar is also being live streamed in the Cage-Free, Go Free FB page. Then a recording will be available in YouTube in the coming days. So, all right, docs, let's get the ball rolling. Let us introduce our speakers, shall we?
Yes, Doc Alvin. First, we will be hearing from Mr. Irwin Bustamante, Campaign Officer from Animal Kingdom Foundation, who will be introducing us to the Cage-Free campaign.
Following Mr. Bustamante would be Dr. Lina Policarpio, Chair of the Subcommittee in Animal Welfare of the Federation of Asian Veterinary Association, or FABA, who will be discussing the current layer production system in the Philippines.
And then we'll have Attorney Heidi Kagiwa, the Program Director of Animal Kingdom Foundation, as she will be talking about animal welfare in egg-laying production. She will wrap up the first set of speakers for today and proceed to an open forum afterwards.
Thank you, Docs Alvin and Doc Noreen. Just a reminder to all our participants to please use the Q&A section for your questions and comments so that our speakers could respond to them directly during the webinar. We will also read some of those questions and comments during the open forum.
All right. So to start, we would like to call on now Mr. Irwin Bustamante to introduce us to what the Cage-Free campaign of Animal Kingdom Foundation is all about. Sir Irwin?
Thank you, Dr. Reen. Thank you for introducing me again. I will be starting this program by introducing the Cage-Free campaign. And I'm just going to share my screen in a bit. Right. Okay, so I hope everyone sees my screen now. Okay, so again, good morning, everyone. I will be starting this program by introducing you to the Cage-Free campaign. Again, I would also like to thank all the participants that are here with us right now. It really means a lot for the campaign because sa bawat tao na makakarinig tungkol sa kampanya namin, isang tao yun na susuporta sa amin. Kaya sa mga susunod pa na mga magsasalita rin ng speakers, yung mga participants, chill lang kayo dyan, sagot namin kayo, ang ating talakayan ay iikot sa mga manok. Ayan. And to start, I'm going to make the participants first understand what this campaign is all about. So before that, I'm just going to introduce where I came from. So again, I am Irwin. I am a campaign officer from the Animal Kingdom Foundation, or simply AKF. So we are a non-governmental organization committed to improving the welfare and living conditions of the animals in the country. So AKF was founded in 2002. Um, Before, we just started with companion animals, so the dogs and the cats. And right now, the foundation also expanded its campaigns to cover also farm animals. So right now we have three flagship campaigns under the Animal Kingdom Foundation. We have the End the Dog Meat Trade. So this is our first flagship campaign. So um, on the side, when AKF started, we are also uh, having projects in, how do I put this, in spay and neuter cats, stray dogs and cats adoption. So AK have some ongoing projects like that. And then just last year, we launched the campaign Better Fish Tomorrow. So this is all about fish welfare, because we also need to pay attention to the welfare of fishes, so to say. And then right now, in the webinar that you are attending, this is about the Cage-Free Go Cruel-Free campaign. So this is the AKF's initiative to about the welfare of our egg-laying hens that are in cages. So sorry, my screen freeze a little bit. So this is our endeavor calling for the improvement of the egg-laying hens' living conditions. So why is there a need for an improvement of their welfare? Because this is a part of a response of the global awareness of consumers to the practices that take place in the farm before their food reaches to the market. Contrary to the popular belief, the cage-free campaign is not just a gimmick to, let's say, na pakawalan yung mga manok sa mga kulungan, kasi hindi nila yung deserve, kumbaga, na nakakulong lang their whole life and just lay eggs. This is an overlooked fact by many of us. Admittedly, hindi lahat familiar dito sa campaign na to. We will still encounter some of the people na bakit yung pakakawalan yung mga manok, kakainin din naman natin sila. Pero that's not the point of this campaign. Ang point nitong campaign na to, yung mga manok, alam natin na they are facing welfare issues by putting them in cramped spaces. And the goal of the campaign is to free them from that suffering. So going back to what I was sharing earlier, so actually, the cage-free campaign, hindi siya kumbaga movement ng isang NGO lang, di lang siya movement ng AKF. It is actually happening globally, but yung pinagmulan talaga nitong kampanya na to, mga consumers talaga, yung mga concerned citizens talaga yung nagpakita ng concern sa ating mga egg-laying hens. So for us to understand why is there a need for this campaign, as of December 2021, there are 44.707 million layer hens in the Philippines. So that means dito lang sa Pilipinas alone to, ito yung latest figures from Philippine Statistics Authority. Meron tayong 44 million na hens. And just to show you, ang figures, they are pointing out na ang ating mga egg-laying hens ay dumadami lang through time. As you can see here, this is a snippet from the chicken egg situation report ng PSA just last year. As you can see, no 2020, 2021, and then in 2022, right now. So ang positive yung growth, nag-increase ang layer hens, and what does it have something to do with the campaign? So dito kasi, predominantly, like even globally, not only here in the Philippines, yung battery cages, they still remain a viable choice for egg farmers. So automatically, kapag mag-aalaga ka ng mga manok na mangingitlog, ang magiging unang papasok sa isip mo is to search for suppliers ng mga cages because we want to contain them. Pero how did that happen? Bakit nga ba natin kinukulong yung mga manok? What is the history behind it? Why we are putting hens in cages? Nung simula lang ba, nakita natin na ang mga manok ay pwede maging source ng itlog? Kinulong agad natin sila? Well, the case is, this is how it went. So why were hens put in cages? So there are 4 reasons that we can point out on why the practice became mainstream and tawag dito, many years forward, yun pa rin yung ating ginagawa. First, for easier disease prevention, before meron kasing bird disease na kumalat sa mga hens na nakukuha nila by pecking on the ground. And that time, hindi pa ganun ka-advanced, at least yung hen management, hindi pa ganun kaalam. Unlike now na marami ng mga na-discover na ways on how to treat hens but not compromising their welfare. So ang nangyari, they put hens in cages para makontrol yon. If I'm not mistaken, yung disease na yan is called coccidiosis. So nakukuha nila yung tawag ito, disease na yon dahil dun sa mga mga chicken droppings, dun sa mga droppings nila. So dun kumakalat yung diseases. And then also, a second reason that we can point out, historically, this hens were put in cages because there's a shortage in food. So kailangan increase yung egg production. So before, hindi naman talaga nakakulong ang mga hens. They may mga bawat bahay, each houses, they are taking care of several hens. Pero dahil nagkaroon ng food shortage due to consecutive world wars, tapos other factors also, mas marami na nag-i-increase yung population. So ang naging instinct ng tao is to just look for ways on how we can address that food shortage. So one of that way is by putting more hens in cages para nga naman mas maliit yung space na requirement tapos mas maraming manok. Which brings us to the other reasons na dahil nga naging ganun yung practice, it became a highly profitable endeavor. So right now, gaya nung sinasabi ko kanina, dahil nga predominant pa rin ang battery cages, it's because malaki yung profits na nakukuha from there. Kinontain mo yung maraming manok. Right now, ang nagiging practice nung sa battery cages is 5 to 7 being fitted in A4 size, yes, A4 size bond paper na cage, and then doon pagkakasyahin yung mga manok. And then dahil nga doon sila nagkakasya rin, maliit yung space requirement, which bring us to the other reason, yung micromanagement ng hens condition. Dahil nga mas madali silang, dahil nakakontain sila, mas madali silang i-manage, mas madaling kunin yung mga eggs, and then that's what happened ngayon. That's why hens are in cages and it become the predominant practice. So in our campaign, we want hens to be free from cages. And what's the reasoning behind it? Kanina na sa tingin ko, if you are paying closely to what I'm saying, I have already cited the reasons why we want hens to be free in cages. So the reason is, one, to promote better hen welfare. So by promoting better hen welfare, it also enables us as humans to have better food choices. Before kasi, if you will recall, yung mga kinukwento kanina, historically, kung ba't napunta yung mga hens sa cages, because it's a response, tugon siya doon sa pangangailangan ng panahon na yun. Pero sa ngayon, dahil hindi naman na yun nangyayari, hopefully at hindi pa in the future, we can look for ways to make hens' lives better. And then second reason is to let hens express their natural behaviors. We are so used to seeing our eggs being only on our tables, kapag breakfast, kapag almusal, mag-uulam ako ng itlog kasama yung sinangag. Pero most of us hindi naiisip yung pinanggalingan ng itlog na kinakain natin. But sadly, the reality is galing yan sa mga inahin na nagsisiksikan sa mga battery cages. And then, and in relation to that, a third reason why we want hens to be free from cages is to promote inclusive growth. Kapag kasi ang mga hens ay nasa cage-free environment, by letting them express their natural behavior, it means that we are also treating them as an animal. We are recognizing their welfare. We are giving them the right environment for them to grow and to express themselves. Ayan. So by doing that, it's also one way for us people to have a better mindset. I will be talking about that later. It's also one of the goals of the Cage-Free campaign. And by promoting inclusive growth, we also, since we recognize nga yung stress sila doon sa cages, that's the fourth reason as you can see in this slide. Kailangan kasi natin ma-realize yun. just remember when we were put in several lockdowns when the pandemic started, lahat tayo nasa bahay, lahat tayo nasa mga kani-kanila nating houses. Yeah, some of us have access to Netflix, pwede lang tayong pa-deliver ng groceries online. Pero nung tumagal na siya, naging parang it became stressful for us. There are even reports na yung mental health natin is also deteriorating kapag nagtagal pa yung lockdown. There were reports like that. Just imagine what we experienced nung nagsimula ang imminent lockdowns dahil sa COVID-19. That's what hens in cages are experiencing always doon sa cramped spaces. So in that regards, the Cage-Free campaign wants hens to be free but also instigate change on people's mindset. So what does this mean? Instigate change on people's mindset. Kasi nga, nakagisna natin siya nakikita na ang mga hens ay nasa loob ng kulungan. Naging norm siya, kumbaga, naging accepted siya na yung mga hens okay lang yung nakakulong kasi ligtas sila dyan, at least hindi sila makukuha o kaya makakain ng ibang mga predators. May mga ganun tayong pag-isip. But in that thinking, nakakalimutan na natin yung mga hens to be treated right. Kasi ang nagiging after lang tayo is the egg that they produce, the money that we can get from producing eggs, but we forget to take into consideration na paano nga ba yung mga hens. And by doing that, by having that mindset kasi na pag nagkaroon tayo ng paki sa mga hens, it means that in the bigger picture, yung animal welfare pumapasok rin sa kamalayan ng maraming tao. 'Di ba? Hindi naman lahat ng tao kasi madaling i-dismiss itong kampanya na ito dahil sasabihin lang ng mga tao na binanggit ko kanina na yung mga manok na yan, kakainin rin naman sila, kaya bakit sila kailangan pakawalan? Pero hindi po yun yung punto. Ang punto natin dito, habang nabubuhay yung mga manok, dapat nararanasan nila kung paano maging isang manok. Dapat ibinibigay natin yun sa kanila. I mean, arguably, hens provide us the most affordable source of protein. It's from eggs. So the least thing that we can do as humans is to treat them right. And just to give you some perspectives on how the Cage-Free campaign is going on right now, this is how the Cage-Free campaign globally looks like. So as you can see in our slides, in our slide right now, Europe has already decided to ban cages by 2027. So that also includes yung mga enriched colony cages. So just tawag dito, chika ko lang rin sa inyo, just a brief short story. Actually, itong Europe, even nung 90s pa lang, there are already movements. Actually, tawag to, information points out that the Cage-Free campaign originated in Europe as early as in 90s. Tapos, ang naging tugon ng government nila is to use enriched colony cages. So, long story short, yung mga colony cages are just spacious cages. So, ibig sabihin, nakakulong pa rin yung mga manok, may mga spaces lang sila. Pero kasi ang nane-neglect naman doon is yung expression ng kanilang natural behaviors. Kaya, ina-emphasize ko yon. Yes, yung mga manok, mas malaking kulungan, nakakagalaw sila, pero nane-neglect pa yung mga ibang mga behavior na kailangan nilang nagagawa. Kaya naman, ang naging nangyari, dahil nga yung mga consumers, they are appealing na hindi kami payag sa ganyan. So they decided that by 2027 ay ibaban na yung mga cages, which is a good move for Europe. And then on the lower right, New Zealand will ban cages this year. So we all know naman na New Zealand is one of the most progressive countries in the world. And as you can see, they have talks like this. We can only hope that one day here in the Philippines, it will become part of the conversations, at least in the political side, now to also give attention to the hens that are in cages. And then third, China launched its cage-free production standard. Why is this a big deal? China is the biggest egg supplier in the world. So for them to have this cage-free production standard, it means that they are recognizing the need for it. So nagtitrickle down na from Western countries yung kampanya, and right now, yung safe to say, itong neighboring country natin sa China, na-recognize nila yung need for that. And according to the sources, by 2025, they are planning to phase out cages also. But it's still in the works kasi they are still in talks with other companies. And another point is that 9 states in USA has already banned cages. You can look up for it for those states, pero slowly yung cage-free campaign is ayun nga, tawag ito, it is crawling to the government side already kasi yun naman talaga yung goal rin ng campaign na to, maging mandated siya to everyone. But us, the campaign officers in the cage-free campaign, kahit sinong tanongin nyo dyan, we are aware na yung changes, tawag dito, is not going to happen overnight. It is going to unravel, tawag dito, slowly. So right now, nagsisimula na tayo kasi believe it or not, matagal talaga yung proseso dyan. So now that I shared to you the campaigns globally, we also have notable brands. So I just included here what is familiar for us, at least here in the Philippines. We have McDonald's, we have Starbucks. The young brands, this contains Pizza Hut and KFC. Focus brands, if you are familiar with Cinnabon, Auntie Julie's, Jamba Juice, they own that. Subway, Burger King, and Dunkin' Donuts. So this brand's committed to switch to using cage-free eggs between 2025 and 2030. So that's approximately 7 to 8 years from now. So hopefully, itong mga brands na may global commitments, they will adhere to that. And right now, paliitin naman natin yung perspektibo. Dito naman tayo sa Pilipinas. Kamusta naman yung cage-free campaign dito locally? So, yours truly, the Cage-Free Go Cruel-Free campaign was launched in 2017 in the Philippines. So it's spearheaded by AKF. And since we started and launched it in 2017, these are so far what we achieved. So just last year, August 2021, the PNS on cage-free egg production was approved already. So it was initiated by AKF, and we worked together with DA-VAPs. So later, Sir Aljon will talk about these standards and its significance. Pero the fact pa lang na meron na tayong standard on cage-free egg production says a lot na what's in it for us in the future, or at least for the hens. And then also, since it's a launch, we are having cage-free certification underway kasi we need to accredit egg farms adhering to the standards. Hindi lang ito basta-basta dapat natatapos sa magko-commit kami na magiging isang cage-free egg farm kami. Kailangan natin i-check if they are really truly cage-free egg farm, or doon naman sa mga restaurants, are they really using true to the words cage-free eggs. Ayan. And then also I shown to you yung mga global brands na commit. We also have local brands that switch to using cage-free eggs. More or less, some of you are familiar with this brands. Itong Salad Stop, this is a leading fast food chain, at least for green lifestyle here in Asia. Bon Appetit, your source of Milk Tea, Pizza Express, Blue Rocket Cafe and Kitchen. You should check out these restaurants kasi maganda yung mga nilang food offerings, and aside from that, they also help us in our campaign. And how did we accomplish that? So this is what we did in that span of 4 to 5 years. So intensify consumer education through mobilizations and information sharing. So we are just recently we we are appealing for McDonald's to adhere to their global commitment, because right now they're only in talks in the Western countries, but here in Asia kailangan namin silang makausap. We're also distributing flyers and leaflets to people. So we are doing that. And also, we are creating awareness through catering to what is the training way to connect with people. So just recently, we had a flash mob, tawag dito, to garner people's attention. Lalo, we are tapping doon sa mga audience na hindi pa ganun maalam doon sa ating kampanya. And we are putting also up booths. We are having billboards para mapakita natin na yung campaign ay true to its goal. Third, partner with corporates and introduce switching to cage-free to be a part of their pipeline. Kapag nag-reach out kasi tayo sa corporates, minsan talaga hindi lang nila alam. But once they happen to know about it, they will talk to us, and we will be having discussions on what steps should they take to move through that moving forward. Coordinate with LGUs, yes. So we are also, so yung approach namin is holistic, hindi lang siya exclusive to the consumers, to the corporates, but also to the egg farmers, because we recognize the need for them to be assisted in the switch. Kasi dito sa atin, maraming mga small-scale egg farmers. And if we want the company to truly realize its potential, kailangan natin i-reach out yung mga nasa grassroots. And then also, we also tap educational institutions to reach out to future professionals. So just like what we are doing right now in Word From Hens, this is our dedicated series for educational institutions. So hopefully moving forward, more of this will be conducted. And to end my presentation in this note, so all of those, what I have shown to you and the progress so far, all of this we are doing for the hens. So I just want to leave it at this note na marami tayong mga estudyante ngayon na mga participants and also at least yung mga enthusiasts or talagang really concerned for the hens. Thank you for showing concern to our hens. But as individual citizens, as students, what we can do right now is to patronize ng cage-free eggs. So far, meron tayong mga available sa ating mga market. We can also ask yung mga suki natin sa palengke kasi hindi natin alam, minsan direkta pala silang nagbabagsak ng itlog sa palengke. Mga hindi naka-cage yung mga hens niyan madalas. So that's also one way of supporting our small businesses. And also, what you can do in your free time, share information. So shameless bragging lang, you can follow our page, Animal Kingdom Foundation and the Cage Free Go Cruel Free campaign. Just search it in there and you will see our page. And so much of that. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Let's do it for the hens, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Sir Irwin. That was a very comprehensive review on the history of egg production from being free to caging them. And truly, you have mentioned an enlightening information on the advocacy of the Animal Kingdom Foundation on the cage-free hen. I could say that Animal Kingdom Foundation can also mean animal kakampi. No colors, ha? No colors. Pwede nating i-define ang AKF as animals kakampi. Because truly, they have understood the need of the hens, not only their physical need, but also the mental as well as emotional need. So hopefully, the government as well as the public institution, private institution, and even the students that we have here would continue their support, and not only through their action, but also through policies and production support. So move on, Animal Kingdom Foundation. So with that, thank you very much, Doc Irwin.
Very well said, Dr. Noreen. So our next speaker is Dr. Lina Policarpio, the current chairman of the Federation of Asian Veterinary Association, or FAVA, Subcommittee on Animal Welfare. She also served as the chairman of the Board of Veterinary Medicine of the Professional Regulation Commission, and was also the former president of the Philippine College of Poultry Practitioners. So without further ado, Dr. Lina.
Yes, so good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, po.
Okay, so good morning. And I apologize, I don't have the backdrop with me. My computer will not allow me to do that. But anyway, again, good morning. And I'm tasked this morning to present an overview of the egg industry here in the Philippines. But I'll tackle some items that may be beneficial to our audience. I understand we have students, veterinary students and animal science students in the audience this morning. Okay, feel free to type in your questions anytime so that we can discuss them or answer them later after the presentation. Okay, so what I'll do, I understand si Irwin has drawn the history and evolution of the egg industry. I'll do that quite briefly. Then what's the present scenario? Some animal welfare issues, not only here in the Philippines, but also in Asia, and the way forward, which as we are discussing right now, it's really going cage-free. So what's the evolution of the egg industry? Reports say and researchers say, but nothing is definite yet, that the main origin of the domestic chicken is Gallus gallus, which early indications point out to have originated in China, in the Indus Valley, but the Gallus sonerati daw yung nandoon, and in the Roman times. And this started actually the development of the layers and the broilers that we have right now. So it's, syempre, some other processes took place in between. Now, poultry production, as I've said, it evolved, and some 6,000 BC, domestication of poultry started. And the rationale then, ironically, was that it was used daw for cockfighting, for rituals, and later on lang nila na-discover that it can be a source of food. In the early years, sometime before the 1930s, most of the farms were in free-range setting, mostly family-owned, and it was a ready source of protein for the families then. And then came the industrialization in the post-war era, sometime in the 1940s, naging market-oriented. And it also led to cage rearing because of the growing population. There's high demand, higher demand for protein, such that they want to maximize the potential of the layers or the poultry that they have then. Then came intensive production in the 70s. So we now saw the mechanization of the industry. We have mechanized cages, we have hybrid breeds, and the main objective was really more production improvement. Now in the 2000s, late 90s, in the 2000s, phasing out of the cages transpired, as shared by Irwin earlier. And then there's now this drive for cage-free production. And the rationale here is really more on the animal welfare issues that the industry was facing. So ito nga, some pictures to show how it was before and up to the present time. Sabi nga, in the Roman times, they were as entertainment purposes. Then later on, ito na yung mga farms wherein it was free-ranging, and they just have a coop at night where the chickens could stay. Now, evolution ng cages, as I discussed earlier, it started with brooding of the chicks, and then tinry nila with the layers, higher production yield, and then later on, mas naging intensive na yung production. I would like to share this picture. This is an old picture I asked my father to give me. Actually, that's my father there on the picture. This was how the houses in the Philippines looked like before. I grew up seeing these types of houses. If you would see, there is a sand deck for the chickens. Pag morning yan, lumalabas sila dyan. And then this is the feeding area here, if you could see that. And also, there's a laying area. If you could see this board here, it somehow covers an area of the pen. And on the other side, yung eggs lumalabas. So it's like, that's how I understood layer production then. Tapos, came the 70s, na inintroduce na nila yung metal cages in the industry, adopted it because nga of the higher demand na for eggs. And for those in the provinces, this is what we see. The bamboo cages, kumbaga, we use what's locally available. But the thing here with the cages, I'm sure Irwin has also showed this, was it's too cramped. My father was telling me, yung buntot ng mga manok natin napuputol because they cannot really move around. There's no space for them to flap their wings and to even sit comfortably in the cages. Because of this, some colony houses came about, and this is how the colony houses looked like. Meron pa ring laying area, if you would see the red boards there. And this now allows the bird to move more comfortably. They can fly, they can preen, they can bathe pero walang sun, ano. Now, later on, free-range production was sort of revisited. And I know that Dr. Irwin Cruz will discuss this in more detail. Just to mention here, these are not layer chickens, but more of cockerels, and I will discuss later why we are doing this. Okay. So the benefits, bakit ba? Lagi naman may rational. Whenever there's an innovation, there's a rationale for that, why they thought of doing that innovation or that improvement in production system. First is the disease control. When birds are in cages, there's limited contact with other animals in the farm. So in terms of disease control, kaya mo siyang i-control, yung biosecurity is better. Manure management is better, lesser labor, and lower risk of cannibalism. However, sabi ko nga kanina, there's very limited space for the layers. Imagine 4 layers in a space of, I think it's 18 to 20 inches ba, in dimension. So there's this inability to express the natural behavior. Likewise, high risk of bone fractures kasi nga hindi makagalaw, lagi nasasabit siguro yung keel, yung legs and all that. And in cages where there's a complete na walang access to light, there's also vitamin D deficiencies observed. Kaya nga may sandek before during the earlier days. And isa pa is the layers, the weaker layers cannot escape from the bullies. So nabubuli sila, yung hierarchy is of course established still in those cages. Okay, now I saw this graph, the layer housing system in selected countries, and you would see that there's still a limited number of countries that is advocating cage-free system. Majority still is using yung caged. And here, the Philippines, and wala pang a record. This is, by the way, 2017. So kung meron man, very limited number of farms or enterprises going into cage-free systems. Globally, again, this is in 2012, 2013. I don't think it has dramatically changed over the time. Globally, the cage layers are still in the 90%, with 7.8 in barn systems, 2.5 in free range. Lumaki man siguro, but not that significant. But the thing is, in Europe, majority are now in cage-free or in rich cages or in barns. And only 0.2% perhaps, or baka wala na ngayon, or meron pa rin kasi 2025 or 2027 yung target nila na 0 na talaga yung cages. So you would see the discrepancy still, but Europe is leading the pack in this regard. So in terms of egg production, ito pa lang yung aking overview. Globally, in 2018, we produced more than 80 million tons of eggs. So globally, and Asia was first in that, and that's because of China leading or dominating the egg production since the 1990s. Okay, so that's in terms of volume, and you would see the Philippines is down there in the bottom of the spectrum. Okay, so here in the Philippines, we have 3 major suppliers of layer chickens. That's Highline, Lohman Breeders, Hendrix Genetics, and some other breeds, but these are the top 3 breeds available locally. And in terms of the leading farms or companies, we have Bounty, Gamma, Rubina Farms, Brookdale, Coral, Masagana, and CPF, which is Sharon Pokpand, or the Thai company who also entered into the poultry business here in the Philippines. Okay, now this is the projected layer production in 2022. Yung actual natin is 2020, 2021. I got this from the life cycle model of the Bureau of Animal Industry. And you would see that still Luzon is the highest producer of table eggs or location of layers here in the Philippines. In terms of production, of course, you would see that maraming layers sa Luzon. Marami, of course, yung production natin ng eggs in Luzon, followed by, the Visayas and then Mindanao. Mindanao and then the Visayas. So in terms of commercial layers, in 2020, that's the time of the pandemic or height of the pandemic, I would say, we have had 44 million layers. And in 2021, we had 56 million layers. In 2022, the projection is 57 million layers. In terms of table egg production, we produced 10.7 billion in 2020, 2021, 15 million, and for this year, the projection is about 18.7 billion eggs, table eggs. Dami na, sasabihin nyo, ang dami na palang itlog. But later, I'll show you it's not enough. Okay, in terms of the global egg consumption or the per capita consumption, China is still highest. Nasa halos 30 kilos na siya per capita. And if you would see, the Philippines is here. We are just consuming 4.6 kilos per year. Okay, so ang baba ng ating egg consumption. That's why the egg industry, the commercial egg sector, has launched the Lodi ang Itlog campaign to encourage people, consumers, to consume more eggs. And the industry goal is to grow the per capita consumption from 104 eggs per annum per capita to 208 in 2022 and to 365 in 2026. Okay? So medyo malaki pa ang hahabulin natin in terms of per capita consumption. But why is this happening? The reason is that the industry is facing a lot of challenges. So in terms of regulations, in terms of land use, in terms of technology and disease threat. So regulations, I'm not sure if you're aware that when you apply for permits with the Bureau of Animal Industry, there are a lot of requirements, and one of which is the ECC, yung mga sa environmental use permits, and also meron ding mga business permits on the land zoning. Also, the medium-sized independent farmers cannot adopt or cannot cope with the modern technologies that the large companies are implementing. In effect, yung mga caged or the enriched cages or the confined housing systems that they have. And because of that, there's still a prevalence of disease incidents in these smallholder farmers. Plus, we add to the equation the threat of bird flu or avian influenza brought about by migratory birds and also those or migratory birds infecting yung mga ducks that could potentially reach those commercial poultry producers. Okay, let's now go to animal welfare. So according to the OIE Terrestrial Code, animal welfare means the physical and mental state of an animal in relation to the condition in which it lives and dies. So hindi lang po habang nabubuhay siya, hanggang mamatay siya, dapat animal welfare is taken into consideration. Here, this is from the OIE, and there are already international standards in animal welfare. As I was looking at it, wala pa yung sa egg production yata. I hope hindi updated lang yung aking file, but I think it's one area that we also need to look into. I mean, OIE has to look into. Okay, now, what are the 5 freedoms? I'm sure this was shared earlier, but just to also emphasize it, the 5 freedoms as crafted by the OIE in 1965 is yung freedom from hunger and thirst, freedom from discomfort, freedom from pain, injury, or disease, freedom to express normal behavior, and in the case of caged production systems, hindi po yan talaga nangyayari. And although siguro yung hunger and thirst, baka yung pain konti or disease, but the discomfort and the expression of normal behavior, hindi siguro nakikita or nangyayari in cage production systems. So OIE went further. So I know may mga vet students dito, right? And may mga animal science students. So remember this, there's a recommendation from the OIE with regard to the competencies of graduating veterinarians. So yung day 1 competencies ng vets. And I highlighted some of the things that we need to remember and take into consideration. Now, sabi nga, animal welfare, we need to ensure that animals are healthy, are comfortable, nourished, they're safe to express innate behavior, and it's not suffering from unpleasant states. Now, as good animal welfare dictates, yung animals should have access to veterinary treatment, appropriate shelter, management, nutrition, humane handling, and slaughter or killing. And remember, mga colleagues or future colleagues, we are the leading advocates of welfare for all animals, including layers. And kung meron ditong hindi vet na nakikinig, pag may vet po kayong katrabaho, make sure they are accountable for the welfare of the animals that you take care of. So as day 1 veterinarians or graduates, we should be able to explain animal welfare and related responsibilities to the owners, to the handlers, to fellow veterinarians, and those who are responsible for the care of these animals from the time they are hatched, born sana sasabihin ko, hatched, to the time they are slaughtered or disposed of. So, what are some of the common welfare issues in Asia? Not just the Philippines, but Asia. First is the disposition of cockerels. Kanina sabi ko ilan, we have about 55 million layers here in the Philippines. So imagine nyo, kasi 50-50 naman yung lumalabas sa itlog, di ba? Imagine nyo, we also have 55 million cockerels. Not at one time lang naman yun, but throughout the production period, merong 55 million cockerels. And what happens, what does the industry do? Masakit mang sabihin, they are drowned, they are killed. In some countries, they are macerated. Talagang nilalagay lang sa macerating machine. And dito sa Pilipinas, alam naman ng Pilipino, they are used as food. So ginagawang yung kwek-kwek, nakikita nyo. And kanina nga, I have been emphasizing yung space is an issue, especially in cage rearing facilities. And also forced molting. So forced molting is giving the hens a second wind. So ina-abstain or wala, ginugutom at merong tubig but feeds is withheld for a certain period, mischedule lang yan kailan sila kakain. And it's very stressful and I would say inhumane for the chickens. And of course, dito sa Asia, tatalian lang yung dalawang paa and then ilalagay sa tricycle or merong pole that they would be carrying maybe 10, 20 chickens and lalagay sa tricycle or sa motorcycle and they are transported long distances. And then slaughter, of course, meron din tayo mga welfare issues in the slaughter part. So, what is the Philippines doing? So, we have the Code of Practice and minimum standards for the welfare of chickens. I am closely working with, mas nagli-lead dito si Attorney Heidi and Dr. Dan Rodriguez. So this is we are revising actually right now AO12, or the Code of Practice and Minimum Standards for the Welfare of Chicken. And some of the items that we are looking into are the housing facilities, yung practice of debeaking, slaughter practices, handling and transport, and culling of day-old cockerels, as I have mentioned earlier, among others. So hindi lang po ito. Marami pong inclusions yung AO12 that the Committee on Animal Welfare is looking at. Okay, so what does the future hold? Or ano kaya yung itsura ng future? Sabi ko nga, ito yung last ko siguro. For us to be able, or not to macerate or not to kill yung mga cockerels, there's this development ng in ovo sex determination. And then of course, growing the cockerels for meat. Yung kaninang pinakita ko, those are cockerels, and the UP LB Institute of Animal Science is leading that together with the Philippine College of Poultry Practitioners, studying how we can perhaps give this option to our smallholder farmers and then grow them for a source of protein. And of course, kanina pinakita rin yung improvement of the standards. We now have standards for free-range chicken or cage-free chickens. And ang nakikita natin is the return of cage-free housing. So sabi ko nga, bata pa ako, alam ko cage-free, naging caged ang layers. And the advent of the return of cage-free housing is in the horizon. And as mentioned again by Irwin, awareness campaigns would really play a great role in ensuring that the industry moves into this direction. Okay. Now, just a food for thought. We are 100 million here in the Philippines and growing by the day, by the minute. And the poverty incidence is 23.7%, meaning they are earning below the poverty line, or they are below the poverty line, which means they are earning less than 12,000 per month. And considering the per capita egg consumption that we have of 4.7 kilos, paano pa natin mapagbabalanse yon? And then the affordability of table eggs. And then we also have a layer roadmap that is being crafted. I'm not sure if approved na siya ng Department of Agriculture, that is focused on commercial egg production. So kung meron mang mention of free-range production in that document, baka mention lang talaga. So that's a challenge for the industry. That's a challenge for this campaign. Likewise, if I may show this slide, how do we strike that balance between food security, the growing population of the Philippines, food safety concerns because of salmonella, because of the disease risks that these free-range or cage-free chickens are exposed to, and then animal welfare on the other hand. I know there are sustainability assessments to include the impact of cage-free rearing on the environment, on the economics and economic status of people, and the social impact of cage-free housing. So I am for this, but as an industry, I hope that we can facilitate the progression towards these cage-free housing systems, but it will not be an easy road to trek, because there are issues that we will be addressing. Remember, I think there was a mention, most of the European countries, or if not some of the European countries before, did not agree on doing cages early on. One of which is Switzerland, and I think Denmark, if I'm not mistaken. And those who went into cage housing are now shifting, but it took them a while to do that, because I think the initiative started in the 1990s, but the full implementation will happen in 2025 or 2027. So where do we? So with that, I'd like to thank everyone for listening. I hope I was able to give a glimpse of the egg industry globally in Asia and here in the Philippines and the way forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doc Lina. So first of all, I would like to say that I like the shirt. Second of all, my takeaway with that talk is yung the last part with regards to balance. I'm also taking notes. So just a matter of balancing the advantages and disadvantages of shifting to cage-free. So I think we can see that there are more advantages to cage-free than there are disadvantages. So I was also looking back while Doc Lina's speaking, and I was researching dun there's one question kasi na pero we will answer that sa forum. It's about cannibalism. So I think there are a lot, as Doc Lina said, there are a lot of things that needs to be done, and I think the academe has a big role in this kasi it starts with us. As I was researching for the causes of cannibalism, yung mga cannibalism, those are the usual factors that were being taught to us, and not being taught there is the aspect of how the hens feel. So in one research in a course I took sa Coursera, I'll just show yung chicken welfare and behavior. Anyway, hindi pala kita So with that ang one reason that they add is the frustration that the chickens feel is the main cause of cannibalism. So just as one particular specific example. So shifting to cage-free is really has more advantages and than disadvantages. So I agree with Doc Lina that there are lots of things that needs to be done. And yun nga, maybe being in the academe, we should embrace and take the role na simulan natin sa pagtuturo sa mga students natin.
Thank you very much, Doc Alvin, for sharing your insights, and of course to our speaker, Dr. Policarpio, for sharing your expertise. Next up, we'll hear more about animal welfare, specifically in the egg-laying production from Attorney Heidi Kagiwa, the Program Director for Animal Kingdom Foundation. And as a lawyer advocate, she has contributed to lobbying various animal welfare guidelines with the Committee on Animal Welfare and has introduced legislations in both Congress and Senate, including the recent pending SB 4318 and Senate Bill 1918. Good morning, Attorney.
Hello, good morning. Hi. Good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to talk to you, to all the veterinary agriculturists, students, all over the Philippines. Good morning po sa inyong lahat, and thank you so much, Doc Rina, for that very kind introduction. So I'll just share my screen. Ano ba yan? Yan. Can you see it?
Yes, Attorney.
Yan. Am I also coming in clear?
Yes, pa.
All right. Okay. Sandali. All right. There you go. Okay. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. And I'm Attorney Heidi Kagiwa. And I'm the Program Director for Animal Kingdom Foundation. AKF started the Philippine campaign for cage-free eggs in 2018 with a very little Philippine resources on the topic. Nevertheless, AKF immersed its first year learning and building alliances, armed with just so much passion and dedication to improve the living condition of the egg-laying hens in the country. We were just really so lucky enough to have friends all over the world and also in the Philippines, to have helped, guided, and supported us in this advocacy. 4 years after our launch, here we are, sharing our knowledge and advocacy with you, our future veterinarians, professors, technicians, animal scientists, agriculturists, environmentalists, and animal welfare advocates. Yan. So before we proceed, let me just share with you the objective of my presentation. If I'm sounding like a teacher, please forgive me. I'm just really wanting to emulate, the excellent teachers we have here in the panel. So of course, we want to know why animal welfare matters in the egg-laying production. We also want to know the relevant animal welfare laws and guidelines that may have impacted in the poultry or egg-laying farm production. And at the end of the presentation, I hope that we may be able to be part of the change in terms of improving the welfare of the egg-laying hens. Okay ba? So, okay. So, I have a Mr. and Miss Universe question addressed to everyone. Of course, this is not going to be which comes first, the chicken or the egg. Not yet for the poll, Tony. Not yet. Yan. So, in-off ko muna. So, I have a Miss Universe question, no? So, it's not going to be which comes first, the chicken or the egg, kasi I'm sure that, I'm not sure pala if that question has been settled already, no? But rather, the question is, do you know where the eggs that you consume come from and how they are produced? Ayan. So, pag-isipan po nating mabuti ito, pag nilay-nilayin. But in the meantime, I'd like to share with you a story. When I was a child, I would usually visit our family in the province. My father used to have a flock of 30 to 50 chickens, and every day I would see him feed the chickens. What caught my attention initially really was his manner of feeding the chickens. I was amused that he feeds them rather unusually, and he seems to be enjoying it. My father would usually bring with him an empty condensed milk tin can, so much like something like this, no, but a bit bigger. And the moment that the chickens hear the sound that my dad makes with a can, the chickens would come rushing to him, expecting as if, no, and lining up for an ayuda. So the sound is like this. Do you hear it? Yan. So the moment the chicken hears this, no, parang may ayuda silang pinipilahan and they all come rushing to him. He would then throw and scatter rice or corn grits for the chickens to feast on. The chickens would roam, scratch, and look for the rice or corn grits all over. I would enjoy watching the chickens race, run, and even spread their wings as if wanting to fly. I would laugh at the chickens fight for the feeds and shoo away the bullies. Some chickens would even distract a resting chicken on a hole that they would have dug or created to rest. In the afternoon, I would watch the chickens walk and go back to their coops on their own without being guided. Amazing. I was really, really so impressed at how smart the chickens were. The best part of the experience, of course, was the fact that we were able to harvest eggs from the chicken's nest in the morning and with, native baskets in tow. How beautiful, di ba? So, do you have a similar story? I just really hope so. For me, this was my vision and my memory of where we source our eggs for daily use and consumption. So, I have a poll, no? I have some questions here that I would like everyone to answer. I would like to request, however, for the participants to answer them as quickly as they can because we have a very limited time. So, yeah, please answer them quickly. No, the first question is: are you familiar with the natural behaviors of the chickens? So just click yes or no if it's yes or no. And the second question is, what are the natural behaviors observed in the story, if any? So I'm giving you what, 5 seconds to answer. So please start answering the poll. Are you able to do it? Yan. So Tony, how was it?
Yun po, attorney, 50% of the participants were able to respond to the poll. And
All
yan.
right.
Kita nyo po ba on your end yung, yung results?
No, I cannot see the results, Tony, but can you share the results so that the participants can also see?
Okay po. Banggitin ko na lang po siguro, no? Para hindi na natin.
Okay.
Yan. So,
Yes, Tony, please.
So yun, 85% of the participants who answered the poll were aware of the natural behaviors of the chickens. And about the natural behaviors that were observed in the story, 70% answered all of the above, namely foraging, nest baiting, nesting, and locomotion. So those are the results.
Thank you so much, Tony. No, ang ganda ng ating result, no? I can see that all of you or most of you are familiar with the natural behavior of chickens. Ayan, napakaganda, no? Medyo mabagal lang pala yung software. But see, we have 85% who said yes, and 70% were able to identify the various natural behavior. So, okay, thank you, Tony. You can close it. Save mo na lang for later. Yan, okay. All right. So basically from the polls, it appears that most of us knows the concept of animal behavior, and that brings us to the next topic, which is of course animal welfare. And what is the relevance of animal welfare and animal behavior? Animal welfare is based on the clear understanding and agreement that animals are sentient beings and that they have the capacity or the ability to perceive and feel things. Nakakaramdam sila, may pakiramdam sila. So sentience includes an animal's ability to experience positive and negative affective states or emotions. And of course, this includes the feelings such as hunger and thirst, and including pain. An animal is considered sentient because it is capable of being aware of its surroundings, its relationship with other animals, and even humans, including, of course, the sensation of its own body, including temperature change. So again, we will observe that animals, reacts to outside stimulus. And when they react to outside stimulus, then that would also mean that they have feelings because there's a reaction to the action given to them. As for chickens, a research published in 2017, the National Library of Medicine shows that chickens are said to have complex negative and positive emotions, as well as shared psychology with humans and other ethologically complex animals. They exhibit emotional contagion and some evidence of empathy. Yan, makikita po natin yung research na yan sa ncbi.nlm.nih.gov. No, article po yan dyan about this research made on the intelligence of chickens. No, that study also concluded that chickens are just as cognitively and emotionally and socially complex as most other birds and mammals in many areas. In fact, it mentions also that Chickens are sensitive to touch, and their skin contains numerous kinds of receptors for temperature, pressure, and pain. That being said, animals and chickens, for this matter, when exposed to varying conditions, may experience physical symptoms of stress and could feel stressed, and thereby impacts on their welfare. If we are saying that animals, including chickens, are sentient beings, then they must deserve some sort of protection. Since the introduction in the early 1960s in Great Britain, the Brambles Report has stirred the discussion of animal welfare amidst growing concern on the welfare of animals in the intensive farm industry. From this concept, the 5 basic freedoms of animals was developed and has since become a guiding principle or even a standard in determining the welfare of animals. The freedom of animals includes, of course, the freedom from hunger and thirst, freedom from discomfort, freedom from pain and injury, disease, freedom to express normal behavior, and freedom from fear and distress. No? From this also, the resulting obligation on the part of persons who care and handle animals arises. And these are the freedom or the obligation to provide the basic needs of the animals consistent with the basic freedom of animals. And what are these needs? The need for an adequate nutrition, appropriate environment, veterinary care, and the means to exhibit normal behavior, as well as protection from fear and distress. Sabi nga kanina ni Doc Lina, no, the 5 basic freedoms are indicators of animal welfare. So what is the relation of this with the thing called animal welfare? In the Philippines, while there is no express recognition that animals are sentient beings, the existing law on animal welfare recognizes that the welfare of animals is based on the 5 basic freedoms. RA 8485, as amended by RA 10631, defined animal welfare as the physical and psychological well-being of animals. And in fact, it included the following: the avoidance of abuse, maltreatment, cruelty, and exploitation of animals, the maintenance of appropriate standards of accommodation, feeding and general care, the prevention and treatment of disease, the assurance of freedom from fear, distress, harassment, unnecessary discomfort, and pain by allowing animals to express their normal behaviors. Diba? It's obviously called from the 5 basic freedoms of animals. Ang sabi dito, di ba, allowing animals to express natural behavior. To be able to address, no, and understand the welfare needs of hens and ensure that their general well-being are addressed, we have to understand also the natural behavior of hens. Natural behaviors are innate behavior which genetically hardwired and can be performed in a response to a cue without necessarily or without any prior experience. To egg-laying hens, that failure to express normal behavior may at times cause stress and impact to their general well-being and welfare. And of course, animal welfare in the egg-laying production essentially means the provision of basic needs of the birds, which should be met on a daily basis. And of course, these needs includes food and water, and of the readily accessible areas to express natural behavior. So ano ba itong mga natural behavior ng ating mga egg-laying hens that we need to recognize to be able to address their welfare needs? Perching. Perching is a natural behavior or highly motivated behavior. Bird seeks elevation, particularly during the night when pullets and hens select a site for resting and sleeping. Perching is important because it improves bone muscle strength, reduces fearfulness and aggression, and give places for refuge and reduce yung tinatawag nating injurious pecking. So this is one of the natural behaviors that we should look into or that we should observe in our chicken coop. Next is locomotion. Locomotion are important behaviors for body and plumage maintenance and may include preening, walking, leaping, turning, stretching of legs, wing flappings, feather ruffling, and tail wagging. Hens need to space to stretch, preen their feathers, flap their wings, and move around. Like us, hens have to have that space so they can choose where they can spend their time as well. They love to move around just like us and lounge for rest and comfort, di ba? Other than that, nesting is another motivated behavior. Layers have a strong motivation to perform nest building, which is triggered by hormones at ovulation. They have basic and instinctive need to lay eggs in a quiet and secluded area. Domestic hens prefer to lay eggs in nests containing loose materials that they can settle into and molding material with their bodies, feet that they can manipulate with their beak. So again, this is another strong motivation on the part of the egg-laying hens. Another behavior that needs to be considered is dust bathing. Dust bathing cleans and maintains feathers, removes oil buildup, parasites, and helps regulate body temperature. That's why it's important that your chicken coop would have spaces and litters, where or areas where chickens or the egg-laying hens can perform dust bathing. Foraging. Hens are motivated to forage, and access to litter is critical to their welfare to maintain good plumage condition, improve the feelings of satisfaction, and potentially reduce adverse behavior. Foraging kasi keeps the hens busy, and when they are busy, they don't have time to pick other chickens. According to scientists, in natural conditions, chickens spend between half and 90% of their time foraging, making it about 15,000 pecks a day. In fact, research said that pecking is a precise, high-tech activity requiring good coordination with the eyes. So maybe we can, learn something from the hens, mga students, Kasi ito, it is a precise, high-tech activity requiring good coordination with the eyes. Baka naman, bago mag-exam, mag-observe tayo ng konting behavior ng chicken, baka may matutunan tayo sa kanila. Wag niyo namang gamitin sa pangongopya, ha? Okay, so if we actually recognizes the welfare of animals, then what is the problem? The rapid growth of human population paved the way to the development of intensive farming methods. Food security became a major consideration, and growing demand for food variety and commercialism ensued. Sabi nga kanina ni Doc Lina, nagkaroon tayo ng industrialization, and our cage-free or our cage production system or our egg production system is about, I believe, up to date, 85% remains in cage system. And I think this figure also holds true in the Philippines, This figure, which I took from the Philippine Statistics Authority chicken situation report for 2020, shows us the increasing egg production from, if you're going to compare it from 2018 to 2019 and then 2020, tumataas. But then, based on the presentation of Doc Lina kanina, she was saying na we aim to produce more eggs, because actually the Philippines is falling short with its neighbors in Asia in terms of egg production. So I don't know what's going to be the impact of this to the hens if we continue our the system to be in cage production. Doc Lina also mentioned a while ago various issues in battery cages. So what happens if the conditions, ito lang naman yun, what happens if the conditions where hens are able to express natural behaviors are not present? So hence, the issues in battery cages. Generally, the welfare of hens, of course, will be compromised and may constitute inhumane conditions as they endure high level of stress and frustration. In many cases, in fact, in battery cages, hens suffer from brittle bone fracture as well as feather loss and even foot problems due to the restrictive environment and wire floors. Sabi pa nila, in the research by RSPCA, hens in battery cages can also experience high rates of condition that leads to liver rupture and death, largely due to stress and lack of exercise. According to the Nobel Prize winner Dr. Conrad Lawrence, the worst torture to which a battery cage is exposed to is the inability to retire somewhere for the laying act. For the person who knows something about animals, it is truly heartrending to watch how a chicken tries again and again to crawl beneath her fellow cage mates to search in vain for cover. In short, put yourselves in the condition or in the situation of hens when you give birth. You wanted privacy, you wanted silence, you wanted isolation, but you cannot have that in battery cages. So imagine the stress that you are going through during egg laying situation. Yeah, I think these issues were very well expounded by Doc Lina in her presentation, so I don't need to discuss them further. So ayan, this is the situation and this is the problem of battery cage in the Philippines. With all this happening globally, the Philippines cannot be said to be lagging behind on animal welfare. With further improvement on policies and laws on animal welfare in the country and the positive reception of stakeholders, better farm animal welfare practices is expected to expand. The Animal Welfare Act, which was passed in 1998 and was amended in 2013 to include stiffer penalties and finally defined animal welfare based on the 5 basic freedoms, was incorporated. Furthermore, the implementing rules and regulations of the Animal Welfare Act expounded also the coverage of animals to include terrestrial, aquatic, and marine mammals. Supporting issuances related to animal welfare like DAAO 12 on the Code of Practices and Minimum Standards for the Welfare of Chickens are clear manifestation of policy improvements as well. This DAAO actually covers housing, space allowances, equipment, lighting, ventilation, temperature protection, and aspects of farm management, transportation, and even slaughter. This AO, as mentioned by Doc Lina, is being updated in the Committee on Animal Welfare. And I would like to commend the members of the Committee on Animal Welfare, TWG, members on DAAO 12, because they have really been very open to suggestions and improvement. In fact, Animal Kingdom Foundation was also recommending the inclusion of a provision on expression of natural behavior. And in principle, this has been approved by the TWG, or the Technical Working Group. Thank you, of course, to our poultry practitioner experts, no, including the likes of Dr. Lina Policarpio and, of course, Dr. Irwin here, who are also speakers in this webinar. Let us not forget also that as early as 2018, we already have PNS, or the Department of issued standards through the Bureau of Agriculture and Fisheries Standards, PNS for free-range chicken, led by Dr. Irwin Cruz, again, who is also speaker in today's webinar, no? And lastly, quite recently, the release and approval of the PNS for cage-free egg production. These approved and published standards are clear indication of the country's commitment to animal health and welfare. So what can we do together, no? So what can we do together? As students, trainees, and young professionals, be responsible in ensuring that you will use your knowledge and training in treating animals in a way not deleterious to their welfare, that you will contribute to the development or improve
To our tech team, are we having some problems with attorney's connection?
Yes po, Doc. I think si attorney lang po yung na-disconnect.
All right. So while waiting for attorney to come back now, I'll just, is she back? Is she back? Kindly inform me, please. Hi, Ash.
Back.
Attorney, you're back.
I know, all of a sudden it was gone. Sorry.
It's okay. Kindly finish your closing message.
Yes, okay.
Attorney. Thank you.
Okay, so that's my last Miss Universe question. Give it a big thought, but I would suggest this answer for everyone, no? I believe that as a student, I can contribute to the improvement of the welfare of the egg-laying hens by using cage-free eggs. I can also help by supporting and initiating my own campaign in the campus, and by being an advocate myself in promoting animal welfare in general. As Joaquin Phoenix said, it takes nothing away from a humankind to be kind to an animal. I thank you. And thank you for listening in today's topic. That goes my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, attorney. We appreciate your sharing of parang crash course on animal welfare. So emphasis, of course, that we would want our students, specifically our veterinary students and also agriculture students, to gain knowledge and of course understand you need to ensure the welfare of animals. So in Attorney Heidi's talk, we saw the importance of providing for the physical, mental, as well as yung aspect of naturalness when we consider yung welfare of animals. So just to emphasize also that if one aspect of that three would be affected, expect that there will be also an effect on the other. So for example, lalo na, no, there was emphasis on the behavior because when we restrict or confine animals or hens, no, it will definitely affect yung behavior nila, the aspect of naturalness, and of course yung mental aspect and yung physical. So all of this will have an effect on the productivity of hens. Tama po ba, attorney?
Tama po. Thank you so much, Doc Rina.
All right. And it's good now with the poll that there is already an awareness, but yung intention natin, what we want to do is to deepen the understanding of animal welfare. Kasi maraming aware, but again, understanding it completely, no, would still need some push. And sana you'll join us in this campaign. Doc Alvin?
It's my turn, Doc Rina and Doc Heidi. Thank you very much. I couldn't agree more with what you have said. So with that, the first three speakers for today are done. And now let's hear from our participants. The floor is now open for your questions to our speakers.
For this open forum, may we request our first three speakers to open their cameras again.
Thank you, Doc Alvin and Doc Noreen.
Okay, so for the first question, I know some are already answering the questions, but I would like to address this to Doc Lina. Doc Lina? So,
Yes, sir.
question number one is, we just recently bought white layers. Our supplier advised us to put them in cages because they peck on other chickens while laying eggs. So our question is, can we make them cage-free chickens? Is there any advice on how to manage them? So by the way, we also support or advocate cage-free chickens. Your answers will surely help us a lot. Thank you. So basically the question is if we can make the traditional white chickens that we use for in cage-free systems.
Okay, so that's quite a tricky question, ano? Kasi the layers that we have now, especially the white leghorns that we have now, I've mentioned the three breeds na common, they are quite flighty pa rin. So if you put them into cage-free facilities, dapat hindi sila makakalipad. That's one thing. Hindi pwedeng yung bakod mo kasing tangkad ko lang, maliit ako. So baka sa kinabukasan wala na yung mga manok nyo. So you can, but in terms of, again, there's a difference in production efficiencies. So kung yung mindset natin nandun pa rin sa production efficiency, we can never compare yung performance in caged facilities and dun sa cage-free. Maraming mga modifications that we need to look into. There are various designs actually coming out. I know Animal Kingdom has their own design din. May mga lumalabas pang ibang designs that would fit the current breeds we have. Now this afternoon, Doc Irwin will be presenting yung free-range system. He has more pictures, I would suppose, to address this question. But yes, you can, but marami po tayong dapat tingnan. Yung coop, yung ranging area, the height of the fence, yung mga butas, the type of netting that you will use will also play a role because kung mag-free range kayo, paano yung mga predators that are around? Yung pusa, yung ahas, yung daga. So marami po tayong dapat tingnan and you have to prepare very well to go into a free range kind of system. So, nasagot ko ba yung tanong? Mahirap sagutin kasi yung tanong niya eh. To transition from a cage facility to free range, it will take a while and it will take conscious effort to do it.
Doc Lina, may I just add, no? We also have to take into consideration kasi based on her question, she's using a white, no, tama ba yun? White
White nga yata, white leghorn.
laying, no, white leghorn ito. So also in considering free range, no, you have to switching to free range, you also have to take into consideration the breed of your chicken. Again, Doc Irwin Cruz would have more information about this later.
All right. Thank you very much for your answers. Let's proceed now to question number 2. Let me just read this or translate it in English for the benefit of our friends, other friends who are foreigners. And thank you, Doc Lina, for answering it already in the question box. But would like to hear your answer for this. Would there be a difference for the quantity as well as quality? Let's add quality also for eggs that are produced from caged hens compared to that of cage-free hens. Doc Lina, kindly.
Yes, I answered it sa chat box. No, there's a difference. For those na, well, it depends also on the breed, of course. So the decalb, kunyari, the high sex that are being used, they are peaking at 95 to 97%. However, I don't have data talaga on the cage-free, but Dr. Kate Hatcher here also replied that if you are following yung recommendations, the management guide, the Isa Brown actually can produce at 96%. So comparable then with the white na breeds. So there are actually differences, but again, if you follow, again, sabi ko nga, it's a balance. What's your objective? Is it commercialization pa rin? Or really looking at the welfare? And then, which one do you push technically? So pero ang sagot doon is meron pong difference. But if you provide the proper management care, yung housing and all, they could perform as well as those in cage.
All right. Thank you very much, Doc Lina, for your clarification. And thank you to Doc Kate for your answer there. And for the interest of time, we would tackle more on this aspect as we finish the 3 talks in a minute. That's why we have to proceed now with our last 3 speakers. And we will try to answer all the questions from the FB and the Zoom also later on. So keep your questions coming, okay?
All right. So not only our guest speakers, but also our reactors as well are interacting with you in our Q&A portion. So please now don't be shy in posting your questions and comments. Okay, let's now hear from Mr. Tony Inting, Campaign Officer from AKF, as he details the concepts behind cage-free production.
He will be followed by Mr. Aljan Reyes from the Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Agriculture and Fisheries Standards, who will help us understand the significance of Philippine national standards on cage-free egg production.
And our last speaker, but not the least, we are delighted to have Dr. For a while. I'm sorry, I lost my... We have our 3rd speaker, Doc Rina. Can you cite? Our last speaker would be?
Yes, Dr. Ren, thank you very much. Our last but not the least, we are delighted to have with us Dr. Irwin Cruz, who will share his expertise on the topic of free-range egg production. Doc Alvin?
So again, to our participants, please leave your questions in the Q&A section. And without further ado, may we call Mr. Tony Linting to start the discussion rolling once again. Sir, please.
Nakamute pala ako. Yan. So, thank you po, Doc Alvin, Dr. Rain, and Doc Rina. So, yan. Clear po ba yung audio ko? And visible po ba yung presentation?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much po. So, yan for this part of the presentation and of the webinar, we'll be talking specifically about cage-free egg production. So, Kasi madalas familiar lang tayo dito sa battery cage egg production kung saan kinukulong natin yung mga hens. So nasa 4 to 10 hens nagsisiksikan sa loob. Kaya nakita ng mga scientists, mga animal welfare advocates and farmers na nakita nila madalas pala hindi ideal yung ganitong setup. Lalong-lalo na pag sobrang siksikan yung mga manok sa loob ng cages. Kaya naman nabuo itong cage-free. Ito yung sagot ng mga scientists, mga farmers para maabot yung compromise between good animal welfare and maayos pa rin na egg production para ma-secure natin yung food security at the same time hindi nako-compromise yung kalusugan at yung kalagayan ng mga manok. So without further ado, let's look into more into the what is cage-free egg or what is cage-free. So yan. So sa photos pa lang, kita na natin yung difference niya sa battery cages. So ayan, nakalaya lang sila sa loob ng isang housing, maluwag yung space nila. So nagagawa nila yung kung anong gusto nilang gawin. Nakakatakbo sila, nakakatalon, nakakadapo sa mga sanga or iba't mga branches na tinatawag nating perch. Ayan. So let's dive more into what is cage-free. So let's define cage-free. So yan, based sa studies, cage-free represents an increased quality of life for hens as compared with those held in cages. So tulad nga nung nabanggit natin kanina, dahil yung mga manok ay as an industry standard, kinulong sa mga masisikip na kulungan para mas mabigyang prioridad ang profit, ang production, na madalas naman ay di naman din alam ng mga farmers, gusto lang talaga nilang kumita. So kaya ito yung naging sagot ng mga farmers natin, mga researchers para matugunan yung pangangailangan ng mga manok. So yan, meron tayong cage-free. So it's a farming environment where hens raised for egg production are housed in open indoor spaces instead of within small cages. So yan, kung makikita natin dito sa right side ng screen, yan, malayang nakakalahad yung mga manok, nakakatayo. Kasi ito yung mga freedom or activities na hindi nila nagagawa sa mga battery cages. So, yun, dahil nga kita natin kung ano yung cage-free, mas paghambingin pa natin kung ano nga ba yung pagkakaiba niya sa battery cages. So, yan, kung makita natin dito, are hence able to perch. So, kanina nabanggit ni Attorney Heidi kung ano yung perching. Isa itong uri ng comfort behavior ng mga manok kung saan dito sila mas nakakapagpahinga, dito nila mas nararamdaman na safe sila or secured sila. Kasi katumbas nito yung pagdapo nila sa mga sanga. Kasi nasa baba yung mga predators nila kadalasan tulad ng mga ahas, mga aso, mga bayawak. Kaya pag nasa perch sila, mas nararamdaman nilang malayo sila sa danger. Kaya yan, binibigyan natin sila ng perching space dito sa cage-free environment. So sa kaliwa ng screen, ito yung cage-free at sa kanan, ito yung naka-battery cage naman. So yan, kung titingnan nyo, nandun lang talaga sa loob ng 4 na sulok ng kulungan yung buhay ng mga naka-battery cage naman, mga manok. So bukod doon, bukod sa perching, yan, do they have proper nests? So dahil nga nakakulong lang doon sa loob ng kulungan yung mga manok, doon na nila nagagawa lahat ng activities na kailangan nila. So kung titingnan natin yung photo ng cage-free, ng isang cage-free hen, so yan, maayos yung pugad niya, may substrate na tinatawag o may nesting substrate. Ito ang nasa sample na ito ay dayami or straw na tinatawag. So ang mga manok kasi by nature, sila ay highly motivated silang mangitlog sa mga maayos na pugad. Gusto nila ng warm, ng medyo dark, at mas private yung yung nesting space nila. So marami ng researches na napatunayan na ang mga manok mas motivated silang mangitlog sa maayos na pugad kumpara sa kumain ng maayos. Dahil itong pangingitlog halos araw-araw nilang ginagawa, kaya mahalaga rin na mabigyan natin sila ng maayos na facility sa pangingitlog. So dito, yan, are hens confined in cages? Yan, titingnan natin dito sa photo ng battery cage. Halos, ilan yung mabibilang yung manok na nagsisiksikan dyan sa kulungan. So imagine, kung kayo nga, di ba, sa mga bus or sa mga MRT, sa LRT, sa mga jeep, ayaw din natin madalas ng siksikan, di ba? So imagine niyo na lang yung mga manok. Araw-araw nilang kailangan na tiisin yung ganitong pamumuhay. Kumpara naman sa cage-free, so yan, kung titingnan natin, malaya silang makakapaglakad, makakapag-stretch ng mga pakpak nila, at malaya silang makakatayo. So yan. So, kaya naman, life on farms can be difficult no matter the circumstance. So, ang buhay sa mga farm, para sa mga hayop, hindi talaga may iwasan na yan, may mga difficulties na mararanasan. Pero pagdating sa welfare, kahit yung mga ganitong pagbabago, kahit yung mga ganitong improvement, walang maliit o malaking step dito. Basta ang motivation mo ay mas mapaganda yung welfare at yung kalagayan ng mga farm animals natin, especially yung mga egg-laying hens. So, yan, based sa research, battery cages represent some of the most intense confinement and any animal induced on factory farms. So, kung titingnan nyo yung population ng egg-laying hens, dito pa lang sa Pilipinas, meron na tayong halos more than 50 million hens. So, imagine 50 million yung nagsisiksikan sa mga ganitong kulungan. 50 million hens yung nahihirapan at araw-araw ginugugol nila yung araw nila sa mga kasama yung ibang manok. Nahihirapan sila dahil kahit nasa loob sila ng kulungan, naghahanap pa rin sila ng maayos na pugad, maayos na perching space. So, yun. Kaya maraming nagde-describe sa battery cages as torture dito sa mga animals na ito. So yan, hens in battery cages are cramped in small wire cages which house 4 to 10 hens. So yun, imagine, 4 to 10 hens magsisiksikan sa isang kulungan and are about 15 inches in height. So yan, yung ibang cages nga, dahil sa gustuhan ng iba na ma-utilize yung space, minsan hindi pa yan saktong 15 inches, so hindi na nakakatayo ng maayos yung mga manok. So dahil matagal silang naka-stretch, matagal kumbaga hindi nakainat yung ulo nila. So dahil pinagkakasya sila sa maliit na cages, paglabas ng mga manok sa cage, yun, hindi na sila makapag-stretch ng maayos dahil kumbaga na-fracture na yung nila, yung buto nila. So ang tawag nga ng researchers dito ay cage fatigue. Dahil yun, na-fatigue na yung muscle, yung mga buto ng mga manok sa cages. Yan. Ito yung situation ng mga battery cage hens sa loob ng cages. Birds cannot run, hop, or even fully stretch their wings without hitting the sides of the cage or another bird. So yan. So kung makikita natin itong mga photos na itong mga situation ng battery cages, so ito yung motivation kung bakit tayo nagsusulong ng cage-free. Ito rin yung dahilan kung bakit na-develop itong cage-free farms. Yan. Yan, tulad ng nabanggit ko kanina, battery cages frustrate virtually every behavior a hen would normally engage in, including scratching, dust bathing, perching, and nesting. So, ang dahilan nito, dahil nasa loob sila ng cages at dito naman sa cages walang facility to dust bait. So ginagawa nila ito sa mga damuhan, sa mga lupa, walang facility to scratch. So doon din nila 'yung ginagawa. Walang perching space at wala ding nesting space. So lahat ng activity nila sa loob lang ng cages nila kailangan gawin. So parang tayo lang din nitong recent na lockdowns ng mga nakaraang taon. 'Di ba? Hindi tayo makalabas. Lahat ng kailangan natin gawin dapat sa bahay lang natin. So medyo nakaka-frustrate din siya kung ilalagay natin yung sarili natin sa sitwasyon ng mga manok. Ba? So yun. Yun, ang importanteng ang importanteng point natin dito is yun, yung perching, yung nesting nga. Kung titingnan natin itong mga manok na nasa photos, so yun. So diyan na sila nangingitlog. So mahalaga talaga na mabigyan natin sila ng maayos na nesting space. Kasi yan, isa yan sa pinakamahalagang behaviors ng mga manok. Yan. So, although nakita natin yung sitwasyon ng battery cages, so nakita din natin siya in contrast with cage-free. Nakita natin yung freedom ng mga manok na nasa cage-free farm. At nakita natin kung ano yung restrictions sa battery cages. So, gusto lang namin ipaalam sa inyo na although cage-free farm yan, hindi naman automatically maayos na agad yung environment ng mga manok dyan. So, ang mahalaga nating titignan ay yung farm management pa rin. Kasi pwedeng cage-free sila pero yung farmer ay hindi knowledgeable tungkol sa cage-free. Pwedeng hindi siya sumusunod sa standards, siksikan pa rin yung mga manok, hindi pa rin maayos yung environment ng mga manok kahit cage-free na sila. So, gusto lang nating paalala na a cage-free environment does not necessarily mean a better environment for hens. So, mahalaga pa rin na bigyan nating pansin yung farm management. Kasi kahit na cage-free, ayan, dapat mahalaga na compliant tayo sa standards, maayos yung space allocation natin, malinis yung farm natin. So, yun, dapat ito yung isang mahalagang paalala natin para sa mga magki-cage free. So, yun, para maiwasan natin ang mga ganitong sitwasyon, para mabigyan natin sila, masiguro natin na maayos yung kalagayan nila. Kaya tayo nagsulong ng Code of Standards para sa cage-free egg production. So yan. Kung titingnan nyo sa baba, sa lower left ng screen nyo, meron tayo ditong Code of Practice for cage-free egg production. So ito, nabanggit ni Irwin kanina na isinulong natin to katuwang ng ibang organizations, katuwang ng Bureau of Agriculture and Fisheries Standards para ma-standardize natin ang pagki-cage-free sa bansa. Dahil itong cage-free ay halos bago pa lang na ina-adapt dito sa Pilipinas. So, pero lagi nating aalalahanin na kahit bago pa lang siya, hindi siya mahirap. Medyo medyo foreign pa lang sa karamihan yung concept na cage-free, pero hindi naman siya agad mahirap. Kailangan lang natin siyang aralin. So mamaya mas aralin pa natin 'yan. So 'yun. Balik tayo dito sa standard. So, yun, para hindi nga natin ma-compromise yung kalagayan ng mga manok. So, although cage-free sila, kailangan, pa rin tayo, kailangan pa rin nating alalahanin yung standards dito. So titingnan natin dito, 6 to 7 birds per 1 square meter ang standard stocking density natin. So anong ibig sabihin na to? So kung meron kang 100 square meters na space or farm or house, yan. So i-divide mo lang yung 100 sa 7 or sa 6. So yun yung bilang ng mga manok na pwede mong i-house sa farm mo para hindi sila sobrang siksikan or hindi rin sila sobrang luwag. So yun. So bukod doon, meron tayong nesting space na standard. Titingnan natin dito. 1 nest box for every 5 hens. So itong standard na ito ay para masiguro natin na hindi sila magsisiksikan o hindi sila mag-aagawan sa nest box nila. So yan. So itong mga nabanggit natin na facilities, yan, balik tayo sa nest box. Ito yung mga facilities na wala sa isang battery cage. So kung gusto pa nating mas makita ito at mas aralin, so, puntahan nyo lang yung website ng Bureau of Agriculture and Fisheries Standards. So nandun yung buong standards niyan. So or i-google nyo lang to, yung PNS BAFS 312-2021. So lalabas na yan yung Code of Practice for Cage-free egg production. Pero for the purpose of this discussion, let's focus muna dito sa mga specific facilities na wala sa isang battery cage. Yan. So itong nest box, yan. 1 nest box for every 5 hens. So kung meron kayong 100 hens, yun, divide nyo lang yung 100 sa 5. So dapat meron kayong 20 nest box para adequate yung bilang ng nest box nyo at hindi kayo makukulangan ng nest box. Yan. So dito naman sa nest box, gusto ng mga manok na na private yung setup ng nest box natin. Private, so tapos meron diyang substrate, tapos medyo madilim para mas ma-motivate natin silang mangitlog at mas gumanda yung production natin. So bukod doon, yan, pwede rin nating isara yung nest box natin by 6 PM hanggang 5 AM para hindi natutulugan ng mga manok yung nest box. Kasi madalas pag tutulog sila dyan, may tendency na mag-iwan sila ng droppings, tapos pagdating ng umaga, may mangingitlog na mga manok, mako-contaminate ng droppings yung itlog nila. So yan. So, yun lang yung ilan sa mga tips natin pagdating sa nest box. So kung gusto pa pala nating mas matuto tungkol dito sa mga technicalities ng isang cage-free egg farm, sa pagtatayo ng isang farm na cage-free, meron din, bukod dito sa Word From Hens, meron din pala kaming ibang webinar naman na tinatawag naming Tayo na't Matuto ng Cage-free. So doon natin mas pinagtutuunan ng pansin itong mga technicalities tungkol sa cage-free egg farm. So yan. So puntahan nyo lang yung Facebook page namin. So nag-plug na din ako. So puntahan nyo lang yung Facebook page namin para mas ma-inquire itong webinar na ito na binibigay namin ng libre, dahil ang gusto lang namin ay mas mapalaganap natin yung pagki-cage-free dito sa bansa natin. So yan, balik tayo sa presentation. So yan, bukod sa nest box, meron din tayong perching space naman. So dito sa perching space, nabanggit natin kanina na yan, dito nakakapagpahinga ng maayos yung mga manok. Dito sila, mas nararamdaman nila na safe sila. Kaya naman, para mabigyan natin sila ng sapat na space, ng perching space, so, according sa standards, dapat meron tayong 6 inches of perching space per hen. So, yan. Kung kung magkakaroon kayo ng 100 hens, kunyari gusto niyo lang i-try yung yung cage free 100 hens, divide nyo lang sa 6. So, yun yung dapat maging nyo. Ay, hindi. 100 hens, divide nyo lang sa times nyo lang sa 6. So, ganun yung magiging haba dapat nung total na perching space nyo dito sa farm natin. So, yun. Mahalaga na meron tayong perching space kasi kung pagbabasihan natin yung mga studies dun sa mga naka-battery cage ng mga manok, pag natutulog sila paggabi, according sa studies, medyo frustrated pa rin yung mga manok, hindi maayos yung pahinga nila kasi pag nandun sila sa cages, hindi nila feel na elevated sila dahil at level pa rin sila sa mga karamihan dun sa mga manok. So, dahil hindi ganito ka-elevated yung setup nila, hindi maayos yung nagiging pahinga nila. So, madalas pag gising nila pag umaga na, hindi kumbaga frustrated yung mga manok. So, yun. Yun yung mga nakikita ng mga pinag-aaralan yung battery cages, yung mga behavior ng mga naka-cage na mga manok. Yan. At dito meron tayong litter space sa isang cage-free farm. So, dito, according sa standard, 1/3 ng house natin o ng farm ay dapat litter space na para sa mga manok. So, dito sa litter space, ano bang ginagawa ng mga manok dito? Yun, para lang remind lang natin, banggitin lang natin ulit, dito sila nagda-dust bait kung saan nalilinis nila yung feathers nila, nare-regulate nila yung temperature nila. Dito sila nakakapag-scratch. So, isa sa mga comfort behaviors na tinatawag ng mga manok, nakapag-scratch sila at nakakapag-forage. So, ang mga manok kasi by nature ay gusto nila lagi silang nalilibang, gusto nila lagi silang may pinagkakaabalahan. So, pag nagfo-forage sila, pag nagsiscratch sila sa litter o nagda-dust bait, mas nalilibang sila. Yan. At dito naiiwasan yung tinatawag natin injurious pecking o cannibalism. So yan kasi pag frustrated sila tulad nung hindi maayos yung tulog nila sa battery cages, for example, dahil hindi maayos yung tulog nila, pwede yung mag-cause ng injurious pecking o cannibalism. So, pag nagsimula yung cannibalism, tutukain nila yung kapwa nila manok. Tapos, yun, pwedeng pasukan ng bacteria yung sugat ng mga manok dahil kakatukain nila. Tapos, gagayahin na ng ibang kapwa nila manok. Kasi itong mga manok, matatalino sila eh. Madalas ginagaya nila yung kapwa nila manok. So, yun. Kaya mahalaga na may mga ganito tayong facilities. So, yan, yung litter space. Yun yung dahilan kung bakit tayo naglalagay ng litter space, for example. So, syempre ang cage-free, hindi lang naman yan basta-basta madali lang na, kumbaga, overnight lang, alam mo na siya agad gawin. Meron ka ring haharapin na mga challenges o may mga kailangan ka rin improve dyan. So, unang-una, yan yung knowledge and training. So, ang cage-free ay halos bago pa lang na konsepto dito sa bansa natin dahil kung tatanungin mo yung mga farmers, ang alam na lang nila madalas ay yung battery cage na setup. Kaya naman, yan, sa pagki-cage-free, kailangan mo talagang mag-invest ng oras sa pag-aaral, sa pag-research, at sa pagtitraining. Yan. So, pangalawa, yung feed consumption. Kumpara sa battery cage, mas mataas ang feed consumption ng mga cage-free na mga manok. Ang dahilan nito ay ang mga manok, mas active sila, mas nakaka-exercise sila, may movement sila, which is, wag nating titingnan na, na negative. Maganda to para sa mga manok kasi katulad nating mga tao, pag nakakapag-exercise tayo, kapag nakakagalaw-galaw tayo, mas gumaganda yung kalagayan ng katawan natin. At hindi lang ng katawan, kundi ng isipan na rin natin, di ba? Pag nakakalabas tayo, nakakita tayo ng mga puno, so katulad din yan ng mga manok. So gumaganda rin yung kalagayan nila kapag mas active sila. So yun, dahil nga mas active sila, mas tumataas ang feed consumption nila. Mas umiinom sila, mas kumakain sila. So yan. So isa yan sa mga nakikita nating pagbabago sa isang cage-free. At bukod doon, mas mataas ang labor ng isang cage-free egg farm. Dahil kailangan mong manually i-check yung mga manok isa-isa dahil hindi naman sila nakakulong. Siyempre, ang mga cage-free, tumatakbo-takbo yan sa loob ng house, sa loob ng farm. Check mo sila or kapag mangongolekta ka ng itlog, manually mo yung kukuhanin sa bawat nest box. So yan. At panghuli, yung facilities and equipment. So, pwedeng maging problema sa isang cage-free farm ang predators, ang availability of space dahil kung ikukumpara natin sa battery cage, medyo mas malaking space ang kakailanganin natin bawat sa pag-cage-free. So, yun. Ito naman, itong mga challenges naman na ito ay ma-address naman natin to as we provide more trainings, as we provide more knowledge about cage-free. So, at habang mas pinapalaganap natin ang pag-cage-free sa bansa, syempre mas ma-update yung technologies, mas mas matututunan natin kung paano maging mas efficient sa pag-cage-free. Kaya naman dito ma-address din natin itong mga challenges na to as time goes by. So, yan. At yun, dahil alam na natin kung ano ang cage-free, anong pagbabago nito, anong kaibahan nito sa isang battery cage, bakit tayo dapat mag-cage-free. So, tingnan naman natin kung ano yung iba't ibang uri ng isang cage-free housing system. Yan. Kung tingnan natin dito, yan, unang-una meron tayong tinatawag na single level or floor-based. So, kung kukumpara natin sa mga bahay natin, so isang palapag lang yan. So, ang consideration mo dito, kung magtatayo ka ng isang single level or floor-based na egg farm, yan, medyo mas konti yung starting capital cost mo dahil yan, konti lang yung facilities na ilalagay mo dyan. Wala ka ng dagdag na levels or tires. So, nasa floor lang talaga sila. Maglalagay ka lang ng nest box, ng roofing, ng mga pader, mga feeders and waterers. So, at purchase. So, yan. Bukod doon, meron din tayong tinatawag na multi-tier or aviary type of cage-free housing. So, yan. Kumpara dun sa single level or floor-based, marami siyang palapag. So, mas marami kang malalagay ng mga manok. Although, kailangan mo lang dito ay mas mataas yung i-invest mong starting capital dahil yan, may mas mataas yung construction cost mo. Maglalagay ka kasi ng dagdag materyales. Pero ang advantage mo naman dito, mas may utilize mo yung space sa taas. At lastly, ayan, meron tayong free range na tinatawag na mamaya mas pagtutuunan pa natin ng pansin sa presentation ni Dr. Irwin. So, maswerte tayo dahil tinugunan ni Dr. Irwin yung invitation natin kasi si Dr. Irwin ang isa sa mga pioneers talaga ng free range egg farming dito sa Pilipinas. So, yan. So, tulad nung nabanggit ko kanina, yan, ito yung mga considerations natin, cost and availability of equipment. So, dapat i-consider natin yan sa pagpili kung anong gusto nating cage-free egg farm, single tier or aviary or free range. So, kung marami tayong available space, marami tayong range na available. So, yan. mas maganda kung makakapag-free range tayo. Yan. Kung yung size and location ng farm ba ay makakapag-permit sa isang free range egg farm o sa isang multi-tier egg farm, at yung panghuli na consideration ay yung personal preference. So kung ikaw mas gusto mo na yung mga manok mo ay nakakapag-range, nakakapag-gala sa labas, so yan, piliin mo na yung free range. So yan, personal preference. At doon, dahil sa dami nga nung types ng cage-free egg farms na yon, ng uri ng egg farms, kahit naman iba-iba sila ng advantages, ng disadvantages, iba-iba sila ng characteristics, ang bottom line lang naman ng mga housing na yon ay gusto lang natin na makapagbigay ng maayos na environment para maging healthy at productive yung mga manok. Gusto lang natin na mabigyan sila ng maayos at magandang kalagayan. At mas hindi lang natin pagtuunan ng pansin yung profit, kumbaga. Hindi lang natin tinitingnan sila as factory ng mga itlog. Kumbaga, binibigyan din natin ng halaga yung buhay ng mga manok. So yan. With that, I would like to end my presentation with this slide. So yan, kung meron kayong mga questions, please feel free to type in the Q&A portion of the webinar. So yun lang. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, sir. In the interest of time, isa lang sasabihin ko. So, in addition to the challenge na na-present sa atin ni sir, actually, isang major challenge would be how to change people's behavior, how to change people's mindset. So, yun ang magiging challenge. And this is a good step for everyone na ma-start natin yung ball rolling with that change. Dr. Rain?
Thank you for your insights, Doc Alvin. And Sir Tony, thank you for all the information. So up next, to tell us about the significance and relevance of the Philippine National Standard Code of Practice for Cage-Free Egg Production, we will be joined by Mr. Aljon Reyes, Project Assistant under the Livestock and Poultry section of the Standard Division of DA-BAPS. So take the floor, Sir Aljon.
Thank you, Dr. Noreen. Thank you, AKF, for inviting me here. Am I clear po ba?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Okay, so I can see po yung slide natin. Sorry.
You can share your presentation,
Okay, sorry.
Sir Aljon. Though in case na hindi po kayo makashare, I can also do it.
Share ko lang po as full screen po. Wait lang po, medyo nagkakaroon ng ayan. So, okay na po ba yung screen ko?
Yes, sir. Paki-slideshow na lang po.
Pa-slideshow na lang po.
Can I request po ba na kayo na lang ang mag-share ng screen? Medyo nagkakaroon ng trouble yung laptop ko po.
Sige po. I'll be sharing the screen tapos ping nyo na lang ako, sir, kapag
Okay.
kapag next slide po.
Okay, thank you po. Okay, so once again po, I'm Aljon Reyes po. project assistant po under the livestock and poultry section of the Standards Development Division of DA-BAPS po. So I will be presenting po today the understanding standard or yung standardization process po of BAPS. And then in this presentation din po, I will briefly explain the importance of cage-free egg production to the consumers. Okay, so next slide po. Okay, so here's the outline po of my presentation. So first po, let's define po and check the principles of standard. And then number 2, importance of standard. Why there is a need to develop standard. And then 3, legislations on standard. So what are the laws that mandated BAPS to develop standard? And 4, the BAPS standard development process. And then last po, the summary and conclusion. So next slide po. So first po, let's define standard. So we have here po two definitions of standard po. According to ISO, standard is a document established by consensus and approved by a recognized body that provides for common and repeated use rules and guidelines or characteristics for activities or their results aimed at the achievement of the optimum degree or of order in a given context. So ISO says po that the standard is a guide to achieve the optimum degree of a product or a practice. And then the World Trade Organization defined standard as the document approved by a recognized body that provides for common and repeated use rules, guidelines, or characteristics for products or related processes and production methods with which the compliance is not mandatory. So basically, they have the same meaning, but according to WTO, the standard po is a guide which the compliance is not mandatory. So next slide po. Thank you. Okay, so here are the basic principles po of standards. So number 1, the standard po must be science-based. So yung the provisions po included in the standard must be backed with science or with research po. And then number 2, the standard po must be internationally accepted and harmonized with Codex, IFOAM, and ISO. And then number 3, the standard must be consistent with international commitments such as in World Trade Organization, ASEAN, APEC, and bilateral and multilateral agreements. So next slide po. Okay, so the importance of standards. So why do we develop standards? So there are 5 importance po on why we develop standard po. So first po, we develop standard to ensure consumer health. So the standard po will ensure that the commodity that we consume is safe. So dito na po pumapasok yung sa cage-free egg production. In the case of cage-free egg production po, animal welfare plays an important role po in ensuring consumer health along with hygienic practices. So in cage-free egg production po, if the chickens are given their welfare needs, they will be healthy. So meaning, if the chickens are healthy, the use of antibiotics or veterinary drugs will be lessened. So if you consume their meat or egg, the veterinary drug residues from the antibiotics or other inputs will not reach the level that can harm humans. So that's how po animal welfare contributes to food safety. So kaya po, yung animal welfare is one of the factors that ensures consumer health through food safety po. And then number 2 importance po, consumer protection. So we also develop standards po to prevent adulteration in agri and fishery products po. Then number 3 po, for workers health and safety. We also develop standard to assure workers' health and safety. The standard po will ensure that the workers have proper uniform, protective equipments when working in a farm. And also the standard po protects the environment by including practices on proper waste disposal. And then last importance, the standard also helps the farmers to produce globally competitive products. So next slide po, sir. Okay, so after learning the importance of standard po, here are the standard setting agencies po in the Philippines. So there are three different agencies po that is mandated po to develop a Philippine national standard. So under the Department of Agriculture po, kami po, the Bureau of Agriculture and Fisheries Standard. And then under naman po ng Department of Health, the Food and Drug Administration. And then under Department of Trade and Industry, the Bureau of Philippine Standards po. So the DA-BAPS po is responsible for setting standard on primary and post-harvest food, while the DOH FDA is responsible for processed foods, and the DTI Bureau of DTI BPS po is responsible for all other industrial standards po. So next po. Okay, so in the screen naman po, here are the BAPS mandates po on standard. So these are the laws po that mandated BAPS to develop a standard po. So first po, in 1997, the Agriculture and Fisheries Modernization Act, which mandated BAPS to develop standards for fresh, primary, and secondary process, agricultural and fishery products. And then next po, the Organic Agriculture Act of 2010. This law po mandated BAPS to develop standards on organic agriculture. The next po, the Agriculture and Fishery Mechanization Act of 2013 mandated BAPS to develop standards on agriculture and fishery machinery, tools, and equipment. And then number 4 po, the Food Safety Act of 2013, which mandated BAPS to develop standards on food safety standards for primary and post-harvest food. And last po, the Philippine Halal Export Development and Promotion Act of 2016, which mandated BAPS to develop halal standards for primary and post-harvest food. Next slide po. So, pakiback po ng isa. Ayan po. Okay, so next po, I'll now present po yung aming step-by-step process of standard development. So this is the procedure po or process that we follow when developing a Philippine national standard. So first po, the process po will start with the request from relevant stakeholders for the development, revision, amendment, or adoption of a standard. So the SDD manager po, so in this case po ay ako po, will evaluate proposal po using 7 prioritization criteria for standard development. So next slide po. So here is the 7 prioritization criteria po that we follow. So each criteria po has an equivalent points po. So the first criteria po is the biosecurity. Next po, domestic consumption, and 3, impact to trade, and 4, existing international or regional, national, related, and industry standards, available data, available local experts, available laboratories to test for technical parameters. So the proposal po needs to have 60 points po para to be included in our prioritization list po for standard development. Next slide po. So after po evaluating the proposal, a TWG or Technical Working Group will be established to provide further guidance in the development of the PNS. Next slide po. To give you some info lang po, the TWG po or Technical Working Group is a pool of experts po that are tapped to assist in the development of standards. So, next slide po. So, they are composed po of representatives from BA agencies, other national government agencies, academe, research institutions, private sector organizations, and civil society organizations. So within pakiback lang po. So within that technical working group, we will select or elect vice chairperson po and chairperson to supervise po the activities of the group. And also po, the BAPS management team will assist the technical working group and will act po as the secretariat of the group. So next slide. So ito naman po yung composition ng aming BAPS management team. So BAPS management team po is composed of first advisor, our director, and then next po our division chief, and then the overseer, and then the managers. So the standards development division po is divided po into 5 sections po. So first po, the crops, livestock and poultry, fish and fishery, machinery and infrastructure, and the general food standard. So ako po, I am under po ng livestock and poultry section. So yung ako po yung nag-handle ng pag-develop ng cage-free egg production. Okay, so next slide po. Okay, so paano ba, how do we select po ba yung members ng TWG? So we also have po a set of qualification in selecting a technical working group member po. So first po, he or she must be Filipino citizen and currently residing in the Philippines. Siyempre, of course, of legal age. And then designated or nominated by the agency head. And then number 4 po, he or she must be expert in the particular area covered by the PNS to be developed and presently working on it in such area po. And then 5, with minimum 3 years work experience po relevant to the scope or areas of the PNS assigned. And then number 6 po, preferably has exposure to procedures of risk analysis, especially risk management. Next slide po. Okay, so once we evaluate the proposal and then we create po the technical working group, the manager po will now craft an initial draft po on the proposed PNS to be developed. So next slide po. So the initial draft po na na-create ni manager will be presented in the TWG meeting for review before presenting it to the stakeholders during the initial consultation. Next slide po. So once the initial draft is reviewed by the technical working group, it will be presented po during the initial stakeholder consultation. So ginagawa po namin ang initial stakeholder consultation to provide transparency to stakeholders and solicit inputs and recommendations on the initial draft standard. Next slide po. So if applicable po, a field data gathering po will be conducted po to collect additional or validate data on required food safety and quality parameters. If the data is sufficient naman po, there is no need to conduct data gathering. So next slide po. So following po the initial SC, the TWG will convene again in a series of technical working group meetings to discuss the inputs and recommendations and to come up po with a revised working draft. Next slide po. So once the initial the comments from the stakeholders or suggestions the initial draft po will now become the working draft. So after we create the working draft, next slide po. Ayan po. The working draft po will be subjected to public circulation po through final stakeholder consultation, posting the working draft at BAP's website and in the online commenting system. During the public circulation po, the TW and stakeholders are encouraged to review the working draft and submit their comments po. And then after public circulation, the TWG will convene again in a finalization meeting to finalize the draft standard. Next slide po. Okay. So once the working draft is finalized, it will result nga po in the creation of the final draft. So subsequently, next slide po. The final draft standard will be submitted to the Office of the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture for approval. Next slide po, sir. Thank you. And then once the PNS po is approved by the DA Secretary, it will be endorsed po to the Bureau of Philippine Standards po of the Department of Trade and Industry for registration. Next slide na po. Next. Okay, so once the PNS approved by the DA Secretary endorsed to the Bureau of Philippine Standard, ino-notify po namin, we will notify po the regulatory agency and yung mga technical working group members as well as the stakeholders po na approve po yung standard po. So that's how po BAPS develop Philippine National Standard po. Okay, so to summarize po, standards po are important to ensure consumer protection po and make products globally competitive. And then number 2, standards po are voluntary in nature. And then 3, BAPS is the sole standard setting agency of the Department of Agriculture. And then next po. So last po, standards po are developed following an established procedure and at the request of relevant stakeholders. And then the requests po are prioritized based on a set of criteria. Okay, so I think that's the last slide po of my presentation. Thank you po for listening.
All right. Thank you very much, Sir Aljon, for that very comprehensive review on the making of the Philippine National Standard. And I'm ecstatic to know that most of your standard, particularly on animal and fisheries, are based on animal welfare concepts. And you're not only making sure of the animal welfare, but also the welfare of the consumers, as well as the quality, as you have mentioned a while ago, quality of the product, and at the same time protecting the interests of the farmers as well as the environment. So we wish that you could produce more standards, and these standards will be transformed into laws so that they could have more power to be implemented. So with that, Sir Aljon, thank you very much. Doc Rina?
Thank you, Doc Noreen, and thank you again to Mr. Aljon Reyes. And for our last speaker, we will be joined by Dr. Irwin Cruz, a fellow from the Philippine College of Poultry Practitioners. In 2021, Dr. Cruz was given the title of Outstanding Veterinarian by the Professional Regulation Commission and Philippine Veterinary Medical Association. He also won the first prize for the best housing design for smallholder poultry farming in Asia and Australia, an award given by the Federation of Asian Veterinary Association, or FAVA, and Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, back in 2020. He will share his expertise on free-range egg production. Dr. Irwin, hello, and you may now start sharing your presentation.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Doc.
Okay, thank you. Good day and good morning to everyone. It's an honor to be here and to present the program that has been ongoing for the past 25 years or more. It is just that we don't, we were not that popular in the poultry industry 10 years or 15 years ago, but now it is catching up. So I'd like to present to you a holistic approach to free-range poultry farming in the Philippines. The relevance of free-range poultry farming in the Philippines, the new normal in smallholder poultry farming. Ang lagi kong sinasabi po, I always tell the DA that the chain that we need to fortify in terms of production, biosecurity, and development are the small and medium scale farmers, because they need our help, the knowledge that we will provide, so that they will be more sustainable and can provide additional food security in the provinces. I always start my presentation that an educated farmer is a successful farmer. It has always been my mantra in this community that you have to be critical thinkers in farming. Hindi lang po tayo aasa sa mga social media or yung sinabi ng iba. It has to be science-based. And this has to be developed and trickled down to our base farmers sa mga probinsya. And further, we'd like to thank the frontline workers after this pandemic and all this crisis that has been going through. The country needs these frontliners as well as our backliners, ang mga farmers. Kasi sabi ko nga before, farmers are the backbone of the country. Once you have fed the country, you have a journey that is better because puno po yung ating mga sikmura, and we have more time to develop or progress as a country. Salamat po mga farmers. A brief walkthrough of the presentation. What is free-range poultry farming? What is considered as a smallholder poultry farming or backyard chicken farming? I'll give you some history on smallholder chicken production in the Philippines and how it evolved in the 21st century. Present population based on PSA or Philippine Statistics Authority of small to medium scale poultry farmers in the Philippines and its significance in the poultry production of the whole country. Strengths and opportunities of backyard poultry production, weakness and threats, value of good education and genetics in free-range poultry farming. And then we will go with the conclusion. What is free-range poultry farming? As per sabi nga natin, ang Bureau of Agriculture and Fisheries Standards is very important. And thank you, Aljon, for your presentation. That this has to be inculcated in how to move forward so that we will have harmonized standards for farmers as well as the government to have track on the different commodities as well as livestock in the country. And we are basing this on the Philippine National Standards way back 2016 po yata na 2018 na produced. Thank you. Free-range is a system production that raises chickens in a confined environment while allowing the birds to exhibit their natural behavior and allowing them access to forage, grasses, and insects and sunlight. Free-range production may be further classified into pasture-raised or traditional free-range farming. Basic standards of free-range poultry production. I always remind farmers, kahit mga students dito, that it is a method of farming. Organic farming is a method of farming. Free-range farming is a method. And cage-free farming is also a method of farming. The chickens have access to a fenced-in area to allow the birds to roam. Minimum ranging requirement is 1 bird per square meter of open space. So if you have, for example, 100 birds, you have 100 square meter of open space that is required for free-range farming production. Minimum po yan. You can go beyond that, but it is recommendatory that you don't go below 1 bird per square meter open space ranging area. Access to vegetation and insects that are added feed inputs to the birds, plus the the additional advantages of ranging, we don't know the nutrients yet, the whole sets of nutrients that the animals get from the grubs and the vegetation. It's a plus factor for free range farming. At least 6 to 8 hours of open air and sunlight. If you go to the European standards, it's more of 8 hours of open sunlight that is required. Us in the Philippines, we are quite blessed to have 12 hours of sunlight most of the time, all year round. So this is really a good area to set up value-added productions like free-range chicken, cage-free farming in the Philippines. Because we don't have snow, we don't have the other shorter daylight hours as compared to other temperate countries. The birds must be provided a shaded dry housing with a space requirement of 5 to 6 birds per square meter. This is what we call the housing density or stocking density, that the birds should have at least 5 to 6 birds per square meter. So kung if you can compute that, if you have 60 birds, you just need 10 square meters. But giving them an extra will be better for them, because as we know, the behavior of the ethology, as we call it, or animal behavior, is that the bigger the area for birds is better for them and more relaxed for them to have an area bigger than 5 to 6 birds per square meter. The genetics used are the traditional slow-growing colored chickens or even the native chickens. So this is where traditional genetics comes in, because it matches the housing, the environment, but the productivity, we cannot expect the same productivity as the industrial type or white layers that we have in the commercial scene. Hybrid for meat, no? For free range can be from the company. These are company names. These are not chicken names. Saso and Hubbard Grimo. And now we have Tetra Babolna later on who are coming in. So these are company names. These are not chicken names. Okay. For egg, dominant CZ, Decal Brown, HNN, Brown Nick. For dual meat and eggs, we have dominant CZ. So we have a dual line that has a balanced breeding program that provides meat for the male line, and the female line will produce eggs at about 280 to 300 eggs per year. Basic standards of free-range poultry production. As I've said, this is a method of farming. Provided with a combination of commercial feeds, or 80 to 90% of its daily feed intake will be coming in from the commercial feeds, which is good quality, as much as possible, yung mga antibiotic-free, mga HACCP, tsaka ISO certified, 80 to 90% will be coming from these commercial feeds. Legumes and grasses and other supplements in the locality of 10 to 20% inclusion. No? Access to perching or roosting sticks. Access to dust baths. Aged and harvested on a minimum of 56 days and up for the mature chicken taste, because right now we are missing that chicken taste because the maturity is required for the animal to have that chicken flavor when you eat it. No? Right now, puro kumbaga mga additives, no, mga breadings, etc., which should be acquired from the natural development of the animal itself. It's a recognized poultry farming practice in the European Union, USA, and Australia. What is smallholder poultry farming naman? It's a family-based poultry production as a food source of poultry produce or food on the table, converting surplus crops to animal protein. A local farmer's poultry production based on a local or provincial market-based chicken and meat farming. No? Local farmers keeping chickens as a support source or in-between food crops habang pinahihinog yung ating palay, mais, no, ating coconuts, no, cassava. We have other sources of support, either food on the table or you sell it for financial support. No? Focuses on the provincial chicken consumers, basically native chicken consumers, local consumers in the provinces. Composed of inbred and mixed breeds, no? Usually yan yung scenario. Basta varieties or sabi nga ng isang farmer natin, OGK. Ano po yung OGK? Sabi ko, Sir Farmer, only God knows the genetic program that this inbreeding does, no? So these are the ones of the problems that we need to fix, because if we want more productivity, robust chicken, less disease incidences, a better result of farm sustainability, we need to fix the genetic baseline of our chickens for free range. Level of knowledge on modern poultry technology and production is low, no, to medium, significantly based on anecdotal, yung mga kwento ng kaibigan, kumpare, no, kung ano yung nakita sa social media, yun na yun, versus a century of solid poultry science. That is what us veterinarians or poultry specialists are providing, no, solid poultry science that the farmers can replicate and can do and can transfer to other farmers. Minimal agri-entrepreneurial ability. So, ang problem din natin sa scenario ng smallholder poultry farming sa Pilipinas is that the business side of the farming has to be footed or kailangan panghawakan ng farmer. Dahil ito, fina-fund ng ating mga seafarers, OFWs, and then kailangan bigyan to ng tuon na magkaroon ng sustainability to a wise management of the cash flow. No? Genetic foundations are low, so you expect low productivity, results to high cost to produce. Favorite project ng local government leaders during election time, very relevant. Ano? So mga dispersals, etc. No? So it has to be fixed properly and set well so that yung mga constituents ay makinabang ng tama at maayos. Population can be 10 to 3,000 heads capacity depending on whose interpretation. So this one we need to also introduce to the BAPs, no? To look into backyard poultry farming. We need to set some standards into it so that we can fortify the knowledge of our farmers when it comes to poultry production in the backyard level. Kasi once you look, when you review what is the standards of backyard, you can check in HLURB, no? DNR, no? So, ano to? Backyard is maximum 500 heads, no? And small scale is about 501 to 5,000. I think the DA is starting to set up some standards on this so that will be harmonized with the ASEAN and the world trade, no? So, kailangan nating ayusin to dahil we have to start at the right foot to make things be harmonized just for us domestically, but also on the international scene. Every time I give a presentation, I give you some short history on the evolution of poultry production in the Philippines. As what George Santayana said, those who cannot learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And we know it's also relevant nowadays. The Manila Galleon in Acapulco, or the Spain, Acapulco, Mexico, Guam, Philippines trade route. This is the trade route during the Spanish era. No? As you can see, because there are no motorized boats or ships by then, at that time, they use northeast trade winds and North Pacific high pressure region as the source of route dahil kung saan yung hangin, doon sila dumadaan. So from Acapulco, it goes to Guam, and Guam, stopover sa Guam, then Manila or Cebu. So these are the main trade routes that all these genetics are coming from also. So yung mga native natin, may halong ano yan, European din. Because some of the livestock that they brought in are chickens. So it came from Spain, processed through the South Americas, and then went to Manila and then dispersed nationwide. And this can be seen typical in this picture or simple talipapa in Manila in 1857. No? So what we see in history is that chicken plays an important role as food and also at the then before as a fighting cock sport. And this was introduced to us by the Spaniards. Most famous Filipino ang tawag ko kasi Pilipino tayo, no? Who enjoys poultry farming in the colonial times. Kilala nyo ba kung sinong pinakasikat na Pinoy na mahilig sa poultry farming, no? Walang iba po kundi si Dr. Jose Rizal. So si Dr. Rizal is a chicken farmer by heart, no? During the times when he was in Dapitan during his exile. And this can be seen in Dapitan when you visit his area there where he was exiled, his chicken house, chicken coop, no? So meron din siyang katayan ng chicken. So makikita nyo dyan. So talagang isa sa mga honor natin as chicken farmers is that our national hero is also a chicken farmer. Present day scenario of the Philippine poultry industry. As before, I've been tracing the contribution of improved native improved chicken genetics against broiler and layer. No? How much do they contribute to the total inventory of chickens in the Philippines? And as of now, no, in 2022, as per PSA, January 2022, native improved chicken recorded the biggest share of 45.2% to the total chicken inventory. So when you're in the urban area, what you usually see are grocery chickens, as I call them. But we didn't know or realize that 45% of the chicken inventory that the Filipinos eat are coming from native and improved chicken. No? And once you further divide it into the different portions, the native improved is 45.3, while the broiler industry provides 31.6 for the meat, while the 23 or 25% of that portion of the whole chicken inventory in the Philippines in January 2022 is coming from the layer industry. So napakalaki po ng contribution ng native at improved at free range sa inventory ng chicken sa Pilipinas. And if you will see in 2022, nag-i-increase pa rin po ang population because people right now are preferred to do farming in their backyard, in the provinces, as well as they want to do some business in improved chicken production. No? As of January 2020, it's 45.28% is coming from native, improved free-range chicken, farmed by small and medium-scale farmers, and then the fighting cocks. No? At 97.58 million are from big integrators, medium to large-scale dependent breeder companies, as well as the layers. No? So if you see the inventory and region and type of chicken in terms of native and improved, we will see that these are the areas where there are prime developments of improved native production. No? And imagine that all these areas are contributing more than 5% of the total inventory. Ang top notcher dyan, as always, is Western Visayas, which is 15.4%. Or we're talking of 12.4 million chickens produced in Western Visayas. Central Visayas produces 8.6 million of chickens in inventory. Then third is Northern Mindanao. Smallholder poultry production plays an important role in the rural areas, the main poultry source of most rural areas in the Philippines, an integral part in the Philippine farming, because it goes hand in hand with our local crops or commodities, agricultural commodities. In between crop source of funds and food on the table, an immediate source of animal protein in the provinces, especially right now when there's a scarcity of pork due to the ASF problem. Remains as a special bayan for Filipinos for daily consumption, as well as during birthdays, fiestas, graduations. At ang favorite food natin, tinola, adobo, lechon manok, no, etc. Part of the Philippine food heritage and cuisine. Immediate livelihood relief during calamities. And we saw this one during the Taal, no? The time that Taal erupted, the first things that the soldiers removed from the area, bukod po syempre sa tao, are the livestock and as well as the pet animals. So, very important po ang poultry sa livelihood at regeneration ng areas during calamities. Strength and opportunities. Quickest animal livelihood to set up. You can be running a program in 3 to 4 months' time, and you'll be earning from it if you do it properly. Easy to learn with no religious or age barrier. From an 8-year-old to an 80-year-old, you can still do chicken farming. Supplemental food source and support income for the families. Annual increase in the demand for local provincial chicken and eggs. We see there's demand with eggs, as Dr. Alina Policarpio said a while ago, that there's a continuous increase of demand for poultry eggs up to date, no? The positive effects of OFWs and seafarers. They are the main funders or funding and farming and consumption of smallholder poultry produce. It is much better than a sari-sari store or a tricycle or as an OFW negosyo. Local government units requirement of poultry livelihood programs, no? High due to election fever, every 6 years or in between 6 years you have elections, and high social impact in a small package. A majority of the backyard piggery farms converted to poultry eggs and meat production due to ASF outbreak. New normal due to COVID, no? New normal due to COVID and the provincial lockdowns have taught us that there's a value of growing your food, because if everything is under a lockdown, even if you have lots of money, you don't have food. So you have to prioritize your food first. And this was a glaring example that if you're in the provinces, you can survive starvation if you have some chickens, eggs, and vegetables in your backyard. Weaknesses and threats. Increase in urbanization and industrialization. Less agriculture opportunities. Maybe over importation is also a problem. Instant foods. No? Everything is so processed that even kids right now don't understand how where eggs are coming from, how do chickens grow. No? They haven't seen a chicken person in actual, no? Fast globalization, COVID threat, avian influenza, and the outbreaks. High feed cost right now, especially with this crisis in Europe. Low productivity, excessive inbreeding, and non-scientific approach in feeding, vaccination. Itong mga bagay nito sino-shortcut ng mga farmers. Minsan, not all of them, but usually in the small and medium scale farming, they tend to skip the essentials of farming, which we need to reteach them constantly. Especially sa schools, we need to see the value of good genetics and animal management practices, very important towards productivity. Minimal science-based approach in farming. No? Masyadong influence ng social media ang farming. Wrong approach in genetics, no? You need hybridization for sustainability rather than inbreeding or pure line production. Hindi porque pure line ka, you'll be productive, because it will cost you more in feeds but less in productivity, and that is not the farming objective, which is kahit po anong mangyari, ang importante po sa programang ginagawa ko ay yung farmer ay kumita. Importante po sa akin, and one of the important tools is this free-range farming production. Kasi if we don't have farmers earning, we have a big problem with food security. Genetics, its vital role in development of smallholder poultry farming in the Philippines. One of the vital foundations that can determine the progress or regress of local smallholder poultry farming. So kung pangit ang genetics mo, don't expect good results. Misrepresentation of the native chicken. With due respect to our chicken farmers na they produce native, no, respetado namin kayo. But if it is a productive result or a high income system, you need a non-native chicken for that. The government program PAIWI system cannot be applied to chicken since undesirable effects of inbreeding is very visible already on the second, third, and fourth generation, no? Of yung mga offspring nila, pag na-inbred po, tumitibay po, pero humihina ang mga itlog, humihina lumaki. So, ito po yung misnomer ng PAIWI sa manok. Hindi po maging breeding farmer yung manok, yung farmer, kung hindi lang food on the table lang dapat. Kasi let the specialists or the people who are really in the breeding and production do the breeding and production for these farmers. Undesirable effects of inbreeding, compromised immune system, abnormalities or defects, low productivity, stunting, and small egg sizes can be seen already in the F2 production. Cost cutting versus wise investing. So ang business program ng ibang farmers natin magtipid na magtipid na magtipid. Magtipid sa feeds, magtipid sa ano, pero ang productivity halos wala. You need to do the right investing on the right areas to make things more profitable for the farmer so that they will do repeat orders, they will invest more because they see good results. Pero kung pagtitipid ang gagawin natin sa farming, matitipid din ang ating opportunity kumita. Multitasking programs for farmers has a low success rate. Ito yung example. For example, a farmer, you give them chickens, no, 1 male and 5 females. No, we make him an instant breeder farmer, an instant broiler farmer, an incubator or hatchery specialist, no, a marketing guy for his chickens. So the chances is very slow. Is very low. So we need to look into that. No? Basic template of hybridization and poultry production must be followed to assure productivity and sustainability of farmers. So you need certified parent stocks to produce the F1 because we can dictate or we can estimate on a more accurate level that the productivity will be there. We have a robust chicken. We have a cost-efficient or feed-efficient animal. Creating specialized farming programs per locality is the key towards successful smallholder farming. Creation of breeding stations in the areas, no? So we need breeding stations, especially pagka mayroon pong outbreak conditions na nakalakang isang provinces, they are still sustainable because they have sources of good genetics in the locality. A native chicken produces 30 to 50 eggs a year, while the imported hybrids produce 286 to 300 eggs a year. So it is quite glaring that the productivity is very important so that the income is there, the sustainability is there. Body weight, in terms of body weight, 1 kilo lang po in 20 weeks or about 5 to 6 months bago kayo makapag-harvest. So mahal nga siya, nakatipid ka nga sa pagkain, pero the longer that you produce will be cost burden for you and the risk will be longer. So what we recommend is as compared to native farming, hybrid F1 farming at 70 days, you have 1.5 kilos. The males, no, the females, you have 280 eggs a year. So you have a more beneficial or sustainable program in the long run. So you need breeding stations, breeding centers in the areas. For example, in Pampanga, you have 4 to 5 breeding stations with certified breeders that can provide small farmers. Kasi the big guys cannot provide parent stocks. So there are only specific companies that can provide small-scale parent stock production and will teach you the program as you go. No? Educating farmers on a more scientific poultry farming can help local farmers earn more and improves food security of localities in the provinces. So this is one free range farm, as you can see in Central Luzon. So we have the farmer doing the program on a low cost setup, but earning well, no? Earning well in the process. They provide surplus crops to the chickens. They boil it first so that it will be more easily digested by the animals, no? And they are high producing animals in the process. They produce more eggs. If you put the science into it, they give you more harvest per chicken, and then more earnings, and you know, you can sustain a business in the long run. So as you can see, the condo nests are quite filled up already. May mga nagwe-wait pa, oh. So makikita nyo na talagang productivity is very important for farmers to earn well. So in a sense, you have a farmer who is producing, harvesting more eggs under free range, high value produce, no? But on a controlled environment within the specific requirements of free range farming conditions. So we have the males you use for meat production. So as you can see, there's more harvest of meat per chicken and more eggs per hen, no? Dual type chickens for maximum productivity and sustainability in small to medium scale poultry farming. So conclusions, no? Smallholder poultry farming is part and parcel of Filipino farming, a tradition that is hundreds of years old. Provincial chicken meat and eggs are important ingredients of our Filipino cuisine. Part na ng ating kultura yung sa pagkain. 45% of the poultry production in the Philippines is still from the farming of smallholder farming of improved native and native chicken production. The other side, the poultry farming industry that has a potential for growth. Smallholder farmers, if educated in the proper way of growing chickens, organized well, and equipped with the right genetics, can be a formidable force in helping the food security in the rural areas. I am one in supporting AKF in the program of cage-free farming because these tools are needed to elevate the Filipino poultry farmer to a better level of agribusiness in the provinces. So in behalf of my company, Dominant Asian Livestock Genetics, we would like to thank everyone for assisting, no? In this program. Thank you for your attention and God bless to all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Irwin Cruz, for that very extensive presentation. What I like about the presentation is, of course, yung emphasis on yung support, on the support to farmers, especially giving them knowledge and skills if needed, no, to make their farming system more productive. Kasi we should always remember that especially if we want to shift to a cage-free system, we have to provide support, no, to our farmers who are the frontliners in caring for our animals. Yan. And yun nga, no, it's good that Dr. Cruz emphasized that there is a big contribution of our smallhold farmers. So I guess in transitioning to a cage-free system, focus can be to start with those smallhold farmers. Thank you very much again, Dr. Cruz.
Right, Dr. Reina. And that concludes our talks for this morning. So for those who have yet to visit a cage-free facility, so may mga puting ban, susunduin kayo ngayon, mag-field trip tayo. De joke lang. So we will have a virtual tour of cage-free facility.
That's correct, Doc Alvin. Medyo paasa ka ng konti, but we will show you a video presentation of a bounty cage-free facility courtesy of AKF. So let's watch this.
So let's go inside our house. This is the house 5 of the cage-free production in Bounty. So we have here 5,000 hens. So basically we just dismantled the nest and all the things there, and we'll have some which serve as the nest. We have here round feeders and tube feeders, also yung ating drinkers, and we also have the nest. Dito we have a wooden nest. Later on, ganito yung gagamitin natin. This is the old cage of the battery cages that we utilized as a nest ng ating mga cage-free layers. So para mabawasan yung cost sa paggawa, kasi hindi rin biro yung cost to make this kind of nest. So yung materials, so bali kinuha na lang namin doon sa loob. And also the same is true with our purchase. So as you can see, all the parts of our purchase are from our old houses. For the farmers, when you have already an old house and medyo depreciated na siya, you can easily convert it to a cage-free facility. So like we did inside the farm, so what we did was to dismantle na lang yung mga cages, and we left some for nest purposes. And then we utilized the flooring. We used the rice hull there para maging litter, and we provided feeders and also drinkers like these ones. So in Viola, we already have a cage-free facility out of battery cages housing. So you have to provide the right nutrition, you have to provide ample amount of water, and ang difference lang is medyo labor intensive ng konti ang cage-free, kasi we will be needing people to feed the chicken and also to collect the eggs. Like we are monitoring on the cage facility. So we always look into factors like feeds, water, the environment, and also the health. Between the cage-free and cage chicken, we can see that the chickens here are a lot more happier because they can move around, they can flap their wings, they can go into the perches and roost at night. Yung stress level siguro nila mas mababa because yeah, they can move around. What I'm seeing 5 to 10 years from now is that more and more producers will be switching into cage-free production. So especially those who are supplying yung supermarkets, yung mga hotel, and mga restaurants. We need to think about these things to prepare our business. So kasi pag hindi tayo nag-evolve, hindi tayo nag-adjust into the changing environment, will be doomed into failure, because a lot of people, a lot of NGOs are beginning to clamor about better welfare on animals. So just like the AKF, so they're already starting their campaign to promote yung cage-free production. In Bounty, we also encourage people to try the cage-free eggs. So because it has a lot of benefits, and it will also help us to promote yung cage-free and better welfare sa mga animals if we will be patronizing yung cage-free eggs.
Wow, what a wonderful video. We have arrived, Doc Alvin, from the facility. And thank you very much to Bounty for showing us your cage-free facility. It's really awesome. It's animal good welfare conducive facility that it shows how doable it can be. So hopefully some viewers, even the students, can promote this kind of production. And they could start from a very minimal, just using there used to be battery cages, and converting it to a cage-free or just a nest for their birds. So it's really doable. So very nice video presentation. Doc Alvin?
I couldn't agree more, Dr. Noreen. So thank you to our participants for posting your questions, and thank you for our experts for answering the questions. So there are some questions in the FB live feed. So we will be answering the questions directly also there. So for the interest of time, we will be directly going to the panelist reactions for now. So for our first two panel reactors, they have both backgrounds in veterinary science. Dr. Ray Camuta del Napoles graduated in 1998 with a degree of Doctor of Veterinary Science and Medicine from Central Zone State University. He was a former diagnostician and epidemiologist nababulo na ako, of Sweet Food Incorporated from 1998 to 2002. He is now an active member of the veterinary profession and a lead veterinarian for AKF's Veterinary and Emergency Services.
Meanwhile, Ms. Therese Elaine Lomeda is a fourth-year veterinary medicine student at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. She is currently the chairperson of the College of Veterinary Medicine Student Council, who spearheaded the Kas na Balik Eskwela and VetMed is Med campaign for all vet colleges in the country. The campaign have acquired positive developments as the UPLB vet students are now looking forward for limited face-to-face classes next semester. Dr. Ray, please feel free to start with your reaction, and then we request Ms. Therese to follow. Thank you. Dr. Ray?
Yeah.
Sorry.
The world does need changing. The society needs changing. The nation needs changing, but we'll never change it until we ourselves are changed. The Dalai Lama himself reminds us that real change in society must start from individuals' initiative. Our speakers were able to share with us the call for change in the farming system, the traditional farming system, and we should be able to adopt the change. The EU has already created a total ban of battery cages, and this total ban of battery cages has led into the campaign in the OIE to set the standards for the cage-free egg production, and we, the Philippines, should follow the same. We should be adaptive to this call for change. I don't have to talk about the health benefits, the welfare benefits, because our speakers were able to express it clearly to everyone. And for the benefit of time, I'm sure we can talk more in the open forum later. Thank you very much.
Elaine?
Yes, hello po. Hello po everyone. I hope nakapag-lunch na po tayo. Ayun po, no? Animals are sentient beings, meaning they feel pain, pleasure, and they suffer too. We see improvements due to calls for better animal welfare for our pets, most especially because we treat them as our family members already. We even call ourselves fur parents, and we treat our pets as our kids or as our babies. But what about food animals? Ano po yung nangyayari sa kanila? Well, warning na lang po for the sensitive content, no? Personally, I have seen pigs being kicked and being hit by wood in abattoir. And ayun po, the pigs were shrieking because of the pain. And as a vet student, I was afraid to approach the butchers kasi I don't know them. And some people may be offended if ever na pinupunan natin sila sa actions nila. So what I did was I approached the attending veterinarian, and then I told her that I have seen what the butchers have done. And then I realized that not all people are aware of animal welfare yet. So we as humans, especially as vet students and practitioners, and for the audience here, we should be knowledgeable first for the 5 freedoms, which is the gold standard for animal welfare. And ayun nga po, those were already discussed by our speakers. And then, ayun po, what the most important question here is, what can vet students like me, like us, for the audience here, can do to push for animal welfare? Ayun po, no, we have the social media, which is a very powerful tool. Ang dali na lang po mag-share ng mga posts. So one thing we can do is to share infographics or PubMats containing information about animal welfare. Well, may limitations pa rin naman po ang social media. So hindi po nare-reach lahat ng mga tao kahit na mag-share po tayo ng mag-share. What we can do is to be knowledgeable and approach other people without sounding condescending. Ayun po, regarding animal welfare and talking about welfare of the roosters or hens or pets that are maltreated. We should also support small farmers who are practicing free range and, of course, animal welfare. We should buy their products and also promote their businesses. As we can see also, those who do not practice animal welfare are mostly big companies po, di ba? So we should call them out and push for the transition for cage-free farming. Ayun po, no? Joining animal welfare organizations such as the Animal Kingdom Foundation can also be an option, as these organizations are immersed and organized in the activities for animal welfare. And as one of the advocacies of the UP College of Veterinary Medicine Student Council, which is #VetMed is essential, this pushes for One Health po, no? This means that animal health, human health, and the environment are all involved with one another. And as vet students and practitioners, we should uphold animal health and welfare so human health and the environment would also be better. Ayan lamang po. Thank you so much po.
All right, thank you very much to our first 2 panel reactors for your insights. So up next, we'll hear from Ms. Charmaine Arnaiz, actress and an animal welfare advocate, followed by Dr. Kate Hatcher, a senior animal scientist at the Global Food Partners. Doc Kate provides scientific expertise for successful transition to best practices in a cage-free egg production across Asia. She also is an adjunct lecturer at the University of Queensland, where she conducts research in animal welfare in Asia. So, Ms. Charmaine, you may share your reaction now, after which Dr. Kate will follow. Ma'am Charmaine.
Thank you, Dr. Lorraine. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
No, thank you. Hello to everyone, to all the students, to all our viewers in Facebook, and everyone here in Zoom, vet students, teachers. I am also a veterinary medicine graduate, and I'm just not practicing. I'm an actress, a mother, and I thank you for giving me this opportunity to join you guys. To all our speakers, the doctors, it was very educational. I enjoyed Dr. Lina Policarpio's slides showing her pictures on her father's pens, on her chicken pens. And I was wondering, sana baka dapat bumalik tayo sa mga dating design. But of course, it's not applicable nowadays to everyone because of space requirement and other things, of course. And it also brought me back when I was listening to Dr. Lina. It brought me back to vet school when I was in animal welfare class with Dr. Rafael Ramos. He made me do this video on chickens, on the sorting center where they sort the eggs, and then there are chicks that also hatched and what they do, and they crush them, and it made me cry. And I have these experiences in vet school that my heart is really close to this topic, cage-free chickens. And I thank Dr. Ray and Attorney Heidi for giving me the opportunity to share this advocacy. I started out with AKF as a consumer buying cage-free eggs. I believe in their advocacy. And I also did a video sharing simple recipes on how to use cage-free eggs. And I remember when we were doing this that we would talk about why people are not buying cage-free. One is the cost. I wonder how it can be less expensive, especially for the regular consumers, because usually it's more expensive, diba? So maybe we can offer like the same price. But although I remember hearing, listening to, is it Tony? Kanina? Wait, I wrote it down. Yeah, it was Tony. In his presentation earlier, he explained why it's more expensive. So I understand that. But maybe when more people are doing cage-free, maybe the price will also go down. And what else? I thank Attorney Heidi, of course, and her team for the efforts to give chickens a voice, to speak in their behalf, to remind us all, to provide them their basic freedom. So if you are like me, support cage-free. And what else? I also enjoyed Tony's presentation, hens in batting cages. And he said, let's remove cruelty, make their lives a little better. So let's remember that. And then Irwin, thank you so much, the campaign officer of AKF. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Also, Sir Aljon Reyes for the standards from the Bureau of Agriculture and Fisheries. And of course, Dr. Irwin Cruz. The farmers are the backbone. I remember him saying, I hope that next time when we have this discussion, we can have like also farmers. We can listen to them, what their inputs are and how we can help them. What are their problems? Maybe during this discussion, we can give them inputs and they can learn from this and we can share whatever it is that they have to say. That's it, I guess. I'm sharing everything that I can in my platforms, and that's how I help. So I guess you can do too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc Charmaine. Doc Kate, please.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. It's great to be here on this webinar today and to hear some really great talks from all of the speakers, including a comprehensive summary of the global situation as well as the local situation there in the Philippines. It's exciting to hear about all the great work that everybody is doing, including AKF and others. It's great to see all the momentum globally as well as in the Philippines and an expansion in all the cage-free egg production across the region. As some of the speakers mentioned, there are still some welfare and production challenges that we see in cage-free environments, such as cannibalism and some production challenges or diseases. And there are a lot of resources available to help egg producers with these challenges. But also, as Alvin commented earlier, there is a need for continued research and work in this area to help find solutions to these problems. And I noticed that there were a number of questions throughout the webinar. Our organization, Global Food Partners, works with stakeholders such as food companies looking to source cage-free eggs, egg producers operating cage-free farms or wanting to operate the cage-free farms, governments, etc. So we do provide support in cage-free egg production. So let us know if you have questions for us or if we can help. You can reach out to us at team@globalfoodpartners.com, and I can put our email in the chat as well if it's helpful. I've just sent it then. And keep up the great work, everybody. It's really great to hear. And for all the students listening today, thank you for your interest in this very important topic. Thank you.
Wow. So thank you very much for your wonderful takeaways, panelists. I'm sure some of our participants share some of your thoughts, and I'm also sure that they learned new things today.
I agree, Doc Alvin. Now, We may call on Attorney Heidi once again for the awarding of certificates. Doc Heidi, Attorney Heidi.
Thank you, Doc Noreen. Okay, so I think we are here in this stage where we are to award our certificates of appreciation to our distinguished speakers, moderators, and for their valuable support and help in making sure that this webinar will be successful and, of course, very informative, especially um, so that our audiences, our students from various veterinary schools and also agricultural students and other students who had been very who has manifested interest no on the topic. So Tony. Tony. Yan. I'm going to read the certificate and then we're going to present them one by one to our um, core members and also to our speaker. This certificate of appreciation is awarded or being presented to um, Dr. Rina Tandeluna with the deepest gratitude for the generosity of time and support extended in the Word for Farm from Farm webinar. As one of the hardworking speakers, your work helped raise awareness about the living conditions of egg-laying hens. Given this 27th day of April 2022 at the AKF Rescue and Rehabilitation Center, Barangay Kubkub, Kapas, Tarlac. That's our actually head office. So thank you so much, Doc Rina. Um, Also, this certificate of appreciation is also being presented to Dr. Alvin William Alvarez. For again, also for your generosity of time and support for being one of our moderators in today's webinar. We hope to be able to see you again in our future webinars, Dr. Alvin. This certificate of appreciation is likewise being presented to Dr. Noreen Medina. Dr. Noreen is also one of our moderators, and her thoughts, insight, and contribution to this successful webinar is really highly appreciated. Thank you, Dr. Noreen. Till next time. This certificate of appreciation is also being presented to Mr. Irwin Bustamante, also for the generosity of time, support, and also the expertise in ensuring that the campaign for cage-free production is communicated well and also effectively during this webinar. Thank you so much, Irwin. Thank you so much. Job well done. This certificate of appreciation is also being awarded or presented to Dr. Lina Policarpio for her generosity of time and support extended also during this webinar. Her expertise as one of our speakers for cage-free layers and over an overview on animal welfare and egg laying production in the Philippines is really very informative, and we really hope to be able to invite you again, Dr. Lina Policarpio.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lina. This certificate of appreciation is also presented to Tony Inting. Tony has been with us as our core campaigner for cage-free egg production and cage-free webinars and seminars. Thank you so much, Tony, for your help, for your patience. Also, this certificate of appreciation is awarded to or being given to Aljan Reyes. Aljan has been very, very supportive, patient, and also very diligent. Starting from the time that we had we had been working with him on the cage-free standards. Thank you, Sir Aljon, for that very informative presentation. Till next time po ulit. This certificate of appreciation is also being given to Dr. Irwin Cruz for his generosity of time and also support in providing extensive information on free range system. Dr. Irwin Cruz has also been very supportive, helpful, and also um, um, very cooperative in ensuring that we work together in promoting cage-free and free-range egg production in the country. Congratulations also, Doc Irwin. Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless.
This certificate of appreciation is also being given to Miss Charmaine Arnaiz or Tochoa. Charmaine is a very close friend of Dr. Ray Napoles, and I'm just really very happy also that we get to know each other. She is a staunch animal welfare advocate. She's also a veterinary graduate, a veterinarian graduate also. We are just really very happy to be surrounded by people like her. Thank you so much, Charmaine, for your time and for your thoughts and for supporting Cage Free.
Thank you.
This certificate of appreciation is also being given to Dr. Kate Hatcher. Dr. Kate has also been very diligent and very generous in providing us support, information, and training on cage-free egg production. She is very much approachable, so anyone who would want to please who would want to seek information or training, please approach Dr. Kate Hatcher. Thank you so much, Dr. Kate.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Of course, this certificate of appreciation is also being given to Dr. Ray Camuta del Napoles. Dr. Ray is also an animal welfare advocate, a campaigns officer, a veterinarian. He has been with animal welfare longer than any one of us maybe, and he has been really very supportive of our cage-free campaign. Thank you so much, Doc Ray, for your wonderful and intelligent insights in today's webinar.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc Ray. Also, this certificate of appreciation is being given to Therese Elaine Lomeda. Therese is one of the students or student leaders, and I'm very impressed with her thoughts on animal welfare, her support on cage-free and general animal welfare programs. Thank you so much, Therese, and we hope to be able to be working with you again in the future.
Thank you very much, Attorney Heidi, for all those certificates and gratitude coming from Animal Kingdom Foundation. What a fruitful and eggful activity we just had.
Exactly, Doc Noreen. So do note that this is just a start. There would be more of Word From Hens in the future. So hopefully not only webinars, but also they will be able to visit schools or possibly do collaborations with vet schools and animal science schools.
Exciting possibility indeed. For the meantime, if you want to follow the progress of the cage-free campaign from here on, please visit the Facebook or Instagram accounts at cage-free, go cruel free. Watch out for their upcoming activities and announcements.
Wow, the time passed so fast. Examining the time, I think we have to stop putting pan on the eggs before we crack. So once again, I'm Doc Noreen. We hope you have learned a lot from this webinar and come out as a cage-free, hence cage-free advocates. Thank you.
The more cage-free advocates, the better. So I'm Doc Alvin. And again, thank you for the time, everyone.
And I am Doc Rina. We are your panel moderators for Word From Hens, a cage-free campaign webinar series for schools, signing off. Enjoy the rest of the day, everyone.